and see about... Oh, something buzzing. It's probably a notification that the show's starting.
That was my phone.
Let's assume everybody's got through that opening Twitch commercial. Well, welcome to Talk of the Tavern. It is Monday, January 8th, and the topic tonight is Talk of the Tavern Goes to Prison.
Yay! I'm still watching the fucking commercial, so...
I didn't do it.
What didn't you do?
Whatever put me in prison.
Oh. Murdered my penis. Did you do that?
Plead the fifth.
As long as you don't say I forced you to drink a fifth. Okay. See, how come it's not... I'm trying to get it to come up on the tablet here. Oh, there we go.
There we are.
Hey!
We're there yet.
Whoop, whoop.
I made I turned
Did you say whoop whoop?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Look at that beautiful screen. There we go. Okay, so we're waiting for our guest to come back. In the meantime, I'll introduce our regular tavern goers here. We'll start with the man with the plan and all the power tonight. We gave it to the black man, Ed Summers. I still don't have that song. What are you drinking and smoking, bud?
I'm drinking a blend. We're trying to do a healthy thing here, so...
Did you make it yourself, or is it like the V8 mix?
No, it's like tomatoes and whatever fucking vegetables were up there in the refrigerator.
That sounds pretty good. It's not like rutabaga and parsnips, is it?
No.
Because I don't know what those are. I was raised in Florida. I know what the Mexican vegetables are. That's it. Okay.
What are you vaping? Smoking?
Nutty tobacco.
Nice.
Nutty.
We've got a stash put aside here for you. And you don't want any of the vaping pens, right?
No pens and nothing that has nicotine in it.
And no, we don't have any with nicotine. We never bought any. You don't want any of the little cases to carry the pens around because they might be good for reading glasses or little tool sets.
Introduce people.
I am, but I'm talking to Ed. He's in power. I got to suck up to this guy. Okay, speaking of vegetables that like to have themselves drank, we also have Kevin Crew out of the UK.
Well, there's an intro I was never expecting tonight. Good evening, everyone. I have mostly been drinking coffee, but I'm just about to tap into a bit of Captain Morgan's and Coke.
Go ahead and tap it, man.
I am, man. I'm tapping away. And this evening I'm smoking John Player Special Gold Leaf.
Ooh, that sounds fancy. Is that what you normally smoke?
No, it's cheap, actually.
She's slipping.
It's just after Christmas, man, and I got 2 teenage kids. Be glad I can actually afford fucking tobacco at all.
Okay. And then we have our very own...
On a separate, unrelated note, if anyone would like to buy a teenage child, hit me up after the show.
It's great when the prison guards try to sell you teenage children.
Well, you know, if anyone's going to have a line in.
And then our very own prison beaver, Andrea.
Because I'm wearing my jammies.
Here, put your head on.
It's too...
I'd like
come
to
on.
get a piece of that beaver.
Show us your beaver.
She's blushing.
No. Okay, I am drinking. I got me some
Fancy
fancy Italian wines. This is my last bottle of this. It is Voga Italian Moscato. Ooh.
You gotta turn it sideways. I can't see it.
Is it sideways?
No,
No, it's gonna dump.
it's gonna dump. Why don't you put the lid on?
Okay. That's what that is. It's a really cool bottle.
Looks like Voss water.
It does look like Voss water. That's Italian.
Which
too.
is also a planet in the Star Wars Old Republic video game.
That's where water comes from. Duh.
Nice.
Cat butt. And tonight it is Tatiana Groovy Blue, my favorite.
Good. Okay, then our very special guest, a buddy that I've known from Steampunk TeslaCon in particular, who I adore this guy, but he never calls me back, and I figure I'm calling him out for that shit now. Dan, are we using real names?
Sure.
Are we using last names or just Dan? Okay, Dan Milner, who, by the way, is a great artist and also has 20-plus pictures that he did in my book, Journal of a Stranger, which you can purchase right below the video thing. Scroll down. Ed, Dan Milner, what are you drinking? What's your vices tonight, man?
Oh, let's see. I am cleaning out the fridge. I had a Bud before, and now I have the champagne of beers, Miller High Life, brewed right
It's
here
not
in
even
Wisconsin.
genuine draft.
It's the champagne of beers.
Is that what you call it?
We don't need no genuine
I
draft.
bet there is not a single champagne grape in that fucking beer.
Oh, and I'm betting on that.
And by the way, hello to Fabian. Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate you jumping in for a heartbeat last night when we were testing things, or 2 days ago. I don't know when it was. And I'm Travis Sivart. Was it last night? I don't know.
It was last night. Who cares? Yeah, it all blends into one, man.
Look, we're in the middle on the screen here.
Yeah, we are.
There we go. Okay, and I'm Travis Sivart. I'm your host. And oh wait, there's
What?
somebody else talking. Dowie. It's funny, we are getting
Dowie.
it quicker on the screen than we're getting here.
Whatever.
That's
Anyway.
great. I can't read this teeny little print. Hold on, we've got people logging in. What do we
It's
got?
Toey. It's Ian. Hi, Ian.
And
What up, Ian? Hey,
there's
Gene.
Gene. There's Gene.
Jean's here.
New tour of duty. Got to be at 0600.
Ed's
Gene,
here.
glad-
Hey, Von Hegner. How's it going?
Hegner.
Hey.
Yay. People.
In
The
Mahdi,
gang
but
right here.
yeah, Ian has a new cigar tumbler. It's like a Tervis with cigar stuff on it. It's pretty cool. He showed it to me the other night, if you know what I mean.
Mm. Yeah.
For all our regulars, guys, we are broadcasting from our house again. We're using the tablet to read your responses, so be patient if we don't notice it right away. Kevin's in charge of reading the Twitch stream to us.
Because Retro Daddio in Williamsburg is changing locations, and because we had a lot of snow recently, internet is not hooked up there.
So, yeah, we'll be back there, and we'll be doing the full thing on the stations and
You
everything.
get an inch of snow, the whole place shuts down.
And I am drinking root beer in my gaming pint glass, which is what it's giving me tonight, plus 10 to charisma. And then I'm also drinking, shut up, drinking filibuster, but what? Boondogler whiskey. That's what's in this. So let's do a toast real quick, then I'll talk about my tobacco. Hey, here's to showing the other side that Hollywood doesn't show of our prison guards, and we can find out how many people really do have sex with them. What am I supposed to? I'm starting with Autumn Evening because I had a half pipe full, and then I'm going to drive Andrea nuts like a pirate with a ship's wheel in his pants. I have some Peter Dinklage.
What? That's awesome.
Peter Heinrich. It's a, hold on, reading glasses again. You want to read it?
Yeah,
that's German.
Von Heckner says he's got almost 1.5 feet of snow. You need to toughen up, people.
I got 1.5 feet.
It's not
It's
us.
not snow, so.
Yeah, it
Should
is very
we
good.
tell them about the conversation you and I had yesterday evening where I was complaining to you? So I messaged Travis and I was there because we were hooking up and testing some technical stuff last night.
They were
I
hooking
was
up.
like, I'm going to be a minute. I need to go and put some extra layers on and whack the heating up because it is fucking freezing in my house.
Man.
And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, it's how cold is it? I don't know. I'll go check the temperature. And he's like, yeah, what was it there? Minus 10?
Negative. Negative 10 Celsius.
Cold
Yeah.
as fuck.
I was
But-
like, it was -1 here. And I was
Yeah,
complaining
a few
about how
days-
cold I was.
And a few days before, we're at negative 22 Celsius, which is negative 6 Fahrenheit.
I think below negative 15 Celsius, all British people die.
Noted.
That's not funny.
By the way, this is a brand new tobacco that I haven't opened. It has 14 years of age on it, so it should be well aged. It's a English, so it's going to be very.
It's in German.
Boring.
They can do stuff with English too. Just look at World War II. Too soon, Kevin?
No, it's all right. I think we've covered the too soon issue with World War II, I think.
Yeah, just checking. I know we can. I guess it's okay if I'm making fun of the Brits from the German point of view, but we just can't make fun of the Germans from, I don't know what the rules are.
Any point of view.
So,
Don't
anybody
mention
have
the
anything
war.
cool go on this week?
Yeah.
That's from off camera.
Body spirit of Ed did.
My kid turned 19.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, way.
And his resale value went way down. Hold on, we got comments.
Oh.
Sound like a short but strong smoke. I don't know what you mean, Ian. Explain it to me.
When you said it's Peter Dinklage.
Oh,
Probably. I'm assuming that's.
it could be. Okay, I'm gonna light up here. So, Ed, what'd you do this week?
I finally went to see Last Jedi. Oh, somebody's crying. Somebody's freaking caught.
Yay!
Oh,
Who could that be?
Devnall subscribed on Amazon Prime. Twitch Prime.
Oh, Devnall, thank you so much, man. Really
Awesome.
appreciate that.
Oh, yay! Tonight's star. Thanks, Devin.
Yeah. I went to see Last Jedi. Yeah, that's what I did. And it wasn't so much the movie. I'm slow. I'm not like everybody else. I went to see it at an Alamo Draft House. If you've never
Nice.
gone to see a movie at an Alamo Draft House, do it.
Yes.
Any movie I go to see in the future, I'm going to an Alamo Draft House. It was cool as
It's
shit.
just what you think it is, the draft house with the beer and pizza and
But it's
sit
the
in a wheelchair.
Alamo.
Burgers, everything. It's really cool.
It's kind of like we have a drive-in theater near us, and I definitely recommend go experience a drive-in if you haven't. Dan, you know you could talk anytime, right?
Yep.
Okay, just check, man. You're like, poof.
He doesn't want to talk to you.
He's gonna start pacing the tower in a second.
And the other thing we've been doing, since Teresa was off 2 weeks over Christmas break, we're catching up on all the Marvel Avenger movies, getting ready for Infinity War. So,
Nice.
So, what do you think of Jedi?
there have been 3 Star Wars movies since Disney has taken over. One of them was a new one.
See, I didn't think this one was all that much of a rehash of one of the old ones.
Oh, train me, Yoda, please train me.
Well, she didn't go there to get trained.
Ultimately, yes, you did. And I
Just
love
like-
Star Wars, but I left the theater going, it was okay. You know?
Now, did you go in with a lot of expectations?
I was hoping to see something new.
Porgs.
Yeah, whatever.
Woo!
I mean, there was some funny stuff, but
I
don't
liked
know. I
The
felt it was
straight line
very
humor in
predictable.
it. Instead of the slapstick trying too hard of the 1, 2, and 3, this one had straight lines that were funny.
And Bob, you're right. I can't wait for the Black Panther 2. You know, it's about the time we see some brothers kicking some ass more often in Marvel movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you
and I
can
love-
understand, right, Bob?
Have you seen the poster for Black Panther?
It's awesome.
No, but I just got my email to buy advance tickets at Alamo Draft House to go see it. So,
Nice.
Nice.
It's all Art Deco style.
oh, cool.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Let's see. Who else had stuff go on this week? Kevin, what'd you do?
I'm away from my normal business at the moment, covering another pub here on the island who've got some holiday
pimping?
absences. Sorry?
Your normal business of pimping?
Yeah. Unfortunately, whilst the pimp hand is normally strong, Christmas has worn it out quite a bit, so I'm taking a couple of weeks off. No, I'm working for another business that's part of the same chain as the one that I work at here on the island. So it's kind of like a busman's holiday, but it's interesting. They do exactly the same kind of menu and stuff that we do at our place. But it's a good old-fashioned pub out in the Isle of Wight countryside. So it's an old stone brick building. It's been on the site for probably about 400 years now. It's a well-known place right in the heart of the island here. So it's quite nice working
I
there
hope
just
by
for a change.
300-400 years it's well known.
Mm. You would hope so. Well, marketing have been shit, but
Ian asked,
Yeah.
isn't there a new Netflix series coming out for Black Lightning?
yes, there is.
Is there?
Yes, there is. I don't know if it's I think you're right in that it's Netflix, but Black Lightning is coming out. They have definitely either made or are making the series as we speak. So
That's
I've
fucking
seen
hilarious.
seen trailers for it.
Remember Super Friends and how they invented 3 racial characters so they had something besides white people? Black Lightning was the black guy in the gymnast spandex, with no legs but long sleeves.
Oh, God.
And
I think they're coming at this one from he's older now, so it's kind of he was Black Lightning, he stops doing it, and then something happens, and he decides he's going to be Black Lightning again.
nice. I wonder if he will be joined by the one Asian character they made up for Super Friends, or the Native American guy who wore a loincloth with leather breeches.
I remember that.
And he turned into a giant Indian, and
That was it.
that was it.
Wow.
He did giant stuff.
PC.
But he spoke like Tonto from the old movie.
Yes, Gibbles.
Isn't that accurate?
Buffalo come.
Oh, no.
What'd we do this past week? We did stuff.
Root the kid.
Oh, yeah. No,
And it snowed.
the snow was nice, though. It was that really light, powdery snow that's really easy to shovel.
And it wasn't yucky. Oh, Jumanji.
We saw Jumanji.
Is it good?
Great.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson. Karen Gillian.
I just tell you what, when you see these grown actors
Playing awkward teenagers, they do great.
yeah, they encapsulated the awkward teen stuff so well that you just went, they're great actors because I'm totally buying the shit that there's a teen stuck in this adult body. So yeah. And there is a
You said it sucked, Bob. You suck, Bob.
Who sucked Bob?
Bob did, apparently.
You said it sucked.
Bob sucked Bob. I don't believe that for 1 minute. If Bob could suck Bob, he wouldn't be wasting his time watching this show.
True.
Maybe he's just listening to the show, not watching, because he can't see when he's like that.
I'm curious. What I want to know is, could Bob suck Bob before he found out he was black?
So, Dan, Bob is one of Ed's friends who's discovered he's...
No.
Oh, no, he's yours, man. He's yours. I think even if he didn't know you, just because, you're the other black guy.
I was going to say, what, it's Ed's friend because he's black.
Yes.
Well, Bob
We're brothers
had
and we're just like that. Of course, that's me on top.
So Bob has discovered through the wonders of genetics that he's 0.003% black or something like that. He'll correct us here in a moment.
That's funny.
Apache Chief, that was his name.
Oh, Ian
What-
says Super Friends Apache Chief. Okay. All right.
Okay. But yeah, so it's
They won't
a
have
running
him.
joke. What?
They won't have him.
Apache Chief?
Yeah, I'm sure today Apache Chief will be. No, that's. Yeah, that's
You
like.
could get Chakotay from Voyager to play him.
Okay. Somebody will be offended. You got an Indian character and you named him Apache Chief. You couldn't do any better than that. Yeah, so we'll never see him.
Diamond. Well, they'll call him by something else, but at one point in time, Black Lightning will look at him and go, "Quiet down, Apache Chief," or something like that. And they can't use Lou Diamond Phillips. He's too old now, and we have no other Indian actors. Native American. Damn it.
What about the guy from Wind Talkers?
Never saw it.
Just do what Hollywood. Just do what Hollywood do. Get a white guy to play him. Just put makeup on him.
Yul Brynner. we'll do a Yule.
Benedict Cumberbatch. I'd love to see that. Right, Benedict, for your next role.
He is playing.
Oh,
Oh, he's got another role that I pulled up recently that Benedict is doing that I'm excited about.
That native actor was in Suicide Squad. He played the climbing guy who got killed. They killed off their token minority right off the bat, as an example. Nobody screw around. We're going to kill this Indian dude.
Was he Indian? I thought he was Australian.
Johnny Depp.
What about Johnny Depp?
She says Johnny Depp.
What about him?
He can play an Indian. He played Tonto, right?
Oh, yeah,
That's true, he did.
I
That's right. It's all coming back.
I finally saw that.
like their definition of Kimosabi, though, in that one.
Yeah.
Wrong brother.
Now, you know what Kimosabi really means?
Probably means white jackass, because he keeps sending Tonto into town to get his ass kicked.
It literally means small penis. And on the original television set, the Indian guy was screwing around, joking with Lone Ranger, and he called him Kimosabi. And the guy's like, let's keep that in the show. Call him that. And he's like, okay. So,
See, now that would have worked if it was a black sidekick and not a native sidekick.
Okay, what else did we do? There was something else I was excited about. I don't know what it was. Was it Jumanji? Wasn't Jumanji?
Well, we can't talk about it.
I slept good afterwards. Moving on.
PlayStation?
Dan, you do anything? Oh, yeah, we started a PlayStation stream on Twitch and YouTube and I'm still trying to look this up. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Him and his kid play PlayStation on there. Like, Aiden plays the game, and Travis is like, what am I doing? What button do I push? It's hilarious.
I played the idiot.
Oh, yeah.
Do you find you have to put much effort into that?
I just act like you and I move on. What else you got?
Ah, fair enough.
It must be kind of like watching me try to do Skype.
Yeah.
Actually, in terms of technical readiness for a show, you already rank in the top 10% of our guests ever, I think. So.
Yeah, you showed up.
Yeah.
You had Skype.
Benedict Cumberbatch is doing the voice of the Grinch.
Oh, amazing.
And that's due out 2018. And Shere Khan in a new version of Jungle Book.
Do you say he's doing the voice, so is that an animated version then, I take it?
I believe so, yeah.
They're doing another Jungle Book?
Yeah, another Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, why not, eh?
Yeah, you can never have too many Jungle Books.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Anybody else got anything they did that was cool this week?
Well, you kind of reminded me of something else that happened to me this week, but it's not cool. It's really sad. So I don't know whether you want to just skip over that and move on.
Wow,
No.
Kevin.
It might be funny to
Yeah,
us.
killer. No, it won't be funny. I'm sorry. I lost another snake. I lost a snake this week.
Oh, like lost or a snake died?
Yeah, no, as in died, not as in it's escaped. It's in the house somewhere. No.
Oh.
Yeah. You guys remember my little Woma python, the little Australian striped one with the bright yellow head?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I lost her this week.
Oh. Because it was too cold, or?
No, sadly, it was an equipment failure. I mean, we use thermostats to control the temperature in all the different tanks. And each tank has its own stat, and we check them like literally every couple of days. We have this insanely complicated looking wall calendar for feeding schedules and stuff like that. And included in that is equipment checks. So we just, twiddle the dial, make sure the lights go on and off and the stats working like it should. But the reason we do that is that occasionally they fail. And then when a stat fails, it will fail in one or two positions, either off or on. And sadly, that's what happened in this case. It failed in the on position and caused her to overheat.
Oh.
Not to take away from that, but welcome back, Fabian.
Yeah, Fabian, welcome back, man. Good to see you.
And Ian is pushing Star Trek Discovery, which I can't watch until it comes on something besides CBS Pay Me now.
Same here.
And Gene wants to practice with Ed on Skype.
Yeah, I don't know what we're practicing, but Bob blew himself over the weekend, apparently.
Did he practice that on Skype?
Way to go, Bob. Yeah, Gene.
Speaking of enormous pythons.
Yeah, that's right. By the way, Dan, if you want to follow along, if you have a browser up, if you go to twitch.tv/Talk of the Tavern, you'll be able to see all the chat and respond also if you like. Whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, I guess that's enough of an intro. Let's move into the regular topic, which is Talk of the Tavern Goes to Prison.
Do we
So-
need a
No, you
disclaimer?
Yes,
Yeah.
Bob, I am a snake freak. It's not creepy. Creepy is like people who own 12 cats.
We don't have 12.
Oh, okay.
And between our cats and your snakes,
Hmm?
we could work out a deal. Devnall says showbox.
Buffet lunch.
Yeah. The shipping costs will kill us, though.
Oh man, it's a shame because my pets would love a play date with yours.
Ian has a question for you there, Kevin.
Ian, no, sadly, I mean it's a nice thought, but actually she was only a juvenile. She's only 2 years old, so although she was getting decent length now, around about 4.5 foot, she's quite pencil thin, so the skin's not really that useful for anything. In fact, we've got
You can make a pencil case.
Well, yeah, literally for one pencil. No, we have a small memorial garden for ex-pets in the back garden, so she's gone to join other animals that
It's
live
only
with us
2
that-
foot wide, but it's 12 foot long.
Yeah, it's just basically the entire back border of my garden. Yeah.
She makes her Fred doesn't dig it up.
Well, I really want to be on like a fly on the wall decades from now after I'm long gone and someone buys this house and decides to dig up that particular area of the garden at the back, because they're going to find some really fucking weird skeletons buried out there. My friend's one of the country's better known keepers of large monitor species. And I have his first ever Asian water monitor who kicked off his collection, and she was a huge 7.5 foot long beastie. And when she passed, the only local service on the island that will cremate pets for you wanted an astronomical sum for an animal of her size, and so she's buried out there. So there's literally a dinosaur looking 7 foot long skeleton out there, as well as other animals that belong to me. So someone's going to get a real shock when they dig up their garden borders in future years.
Good times. Okay, why don't we start with this? We'll let our guests go first. Dan, why don't you and Kevin describe your background or current job in the prison system? Is that Dan's way of saying no?
No, it's fine. I was trying to get that Twitch feed on there, but
Did you get it up? Go to we can
no,
help you get
I
it
had
up.
to like install it. I don't have Twitch on my phone. I have it on the computer for video games, but
Yeah, well, you could just. I mean, depending, are you using Wi-Fi or using a wired?
Wi-Fi.
It might mess with your thing. It might not. But normally, even on Wi-Fi, I can run it while being on Skype.
I've got it open in the background now, and I'm using Wi-Fi in the house.
Yeah, normally I just pull it up in a browser when running the show. It's up to you, man. Whatever you want to do. Thank you, Win. We love your kitty, too. Gene, yes, you can play. Do you work in the prison system or like the post office? Which government? Or do you?
Surely
Frolic.
surely all government jobs feel like working in a prison.
I worked at DMV. It was similar. Ed was the prison guard. Okay, Dan. What do you do? How long have you been doing it? And do you have to use lube?
No lube involved.
Yes,
Although
Josh.
I have, when I hear someone, guys will sit in their rooms and when they want to be annoying, they'll sit there and make weird noises, and I'll make an announcement that Vaseline is available on Canteen, so that, because if you're going to be somebody's cellmate, then at least be a polite one. Because if a guy's up there screaming bloody murder just to be annoying, then I'll make the announcement and people will laugh at him, and that shuts people up better than anything else. But I've been correctional officer or guard. This is going on my 18th year. Started in 2000. So I guess that's what you do when, I went to school for advertising and then art, and then.
So it makes sense you became a prison guard.
Yeah, and then was a soldier. So you combine those two together. What do you do that doesn't bore you to tears or make you want to come to work with your machine gun? Because that's how people look at you when you get out of service. No one wants to hire you. They're like, oh, you jumped out of airplanes with a machine gun. What do you do when you have a bad day? I'm like, meditate.
I masturbate a lot. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, what? You never heard of Pornhub? Come on.
It's kind of taken over RedTube, hasn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So it's like kind of it's supposed to be security, but it's like most of the time it's like you're passing the time and trying to keep your sanity. So, you know, it's kind of a blend of customer service and security. Kind of at a max, it was emphasis on security, but I'm at a medium security one now, so it's more like a college dorm setting.
What's a day like when you go to work? I mean, how's it? What do you do? What's your job like?
Well, I switched to nights. I mean, I started out and I worked second shift a lot, and then, you know, you have your major functions that you have to do. It's like you have to serve meals, you have to dispense medications, which...
Wait, you have to serve meals?
No, we did that. We had a lockdown this past summer, and we actually made up the trays, and we served the meals, and then we brought them up to the rooms because nobody could leave their room except to go to the restroom. So
they don't have toilets in the cells anymore?
Well, we have 2 units. There are like 9-10 housing units on the prison that I'm at, and 2 of them have wet cells that are more like at a maximum security. It looks like a prison. This place was built in the 1800s. It was the original reformatory boys' home for incorrigible youth, and so it was set up. So now they have a lot of the
teenagers.
Yeah, so they have a lot of the younger convicts that have an educational need, and they have classrooms in there so they can get their GED and all that stuff, so they don't have an excuse to just sell dope when they get out. You know, like, hey, you got your GED, you can get a normal job, but the money isn't really
See you in 2 years, Dan. I'll be right back.
Yeah, exactly. But as soon as you get out there and see what kind of job you can get with a GED and no job skills or experience and you're 30 years old, you know, we'll see you in a little bit. Enjoy your pot money until you get caught.
Huh. We'll get back to that because that's a whole topic there, right there. But yeah, I'm still curious about what your day is like, what it's like in these prisons, because we see movies. I have never been to a prison.
Do you have an office, or do you walk around with your stick and bang on the cells?
Yeah, I bang on something.
Well,
yeah, but you're not a prison ed.
See, the thing of it is, like, we really don't have any weapons because you're outnumbered so badly. If at any point in time they decide that, hey, Milner's an asshole, let's take him out, I'm done. You know, they can, you know, there's 164 guys on my housing unit, and there's 2 staff members. And it's
So
me and my sergeant. When
you say housing unit, is it like what we see in Orange is the New Black, where it's just a bunch of beds separated by walls?
Or is it like Oz?
Well, see, that's more of a dormitory setting.
Uh-huh.
But, like, we have a housing unit, and it's kind of V-shaped, and at the center is the officer station, and the front doors are right in front of us, and then there's some back doors where we bring in the food carts. Right. There's a little servery where they serve up the meals, and the center day room is where all the chairs are, where they eat their meals. There's no central cafeteria. Like, the maximum security setup different, but pretty much everything that needs to happen happens on the housing unit unless they get called. They need to see a doctor. We have a health services unit. There's a doctor and a bunch of nurses on staff.
So now, describe a cell. Are we looking at like what we see when we see insane asylum movies where they have a door that's locked with a little window in it? Is it bars? Is it bunk beds in there? What's a prison look like?
I'm sure every state is different, but I was surprised the first time I set foot in a medium when I went to the academy, because I had never been in a prison, and I didn't even do a tour before I started, you know, the training. And when you come in, and these guys are all just walking around, they have rooms, and there's like 100 rooms. Most of them are double cells, and then there's, you know, it's unusual, but some of them are single cells on our unit. They can kind of earn their way if they keep their nose clean. And they can earn their way into a single cell by staying out of trouble. And it's kind of incentive. It's something to take, because
Right.
If you have nothing to take away from them, then you're sitting here. It's like Devil's Island. These guys are just sitting here staring murder at you all day because they have nothing to lose. So why not, plan an escape or plan an attack or whatever. But at a medium, it really does. Other than they're wearing they don't wear orange, they wear greens in our state at a medium. So they have like a green button-down shirt and green pants, and they walk around the unit. They can wear their T-shirts. All their personally owned clothing has to be gray, so some of it's almost white, some of it's almost black. But they used to be able to wear different colors. So then, when I was up at a maximum security, these guys were wearing Spanish Cobras, were wearing red T-shirts, Latin Kings were wearing yellow, and as long as there were little pockets of color, it was business as usual. If they started to mix, then you figured something was brewing. Because once these gangs are all kind of separated and segregating themselves in the chow hall, you would kind of take a look and you're like, hey, how come all those Spanish Cobras are sitting with the Latin Kings? That's not right. And then you start to, you want to investigate, see what they're planning because there's something going down. But now we don't really have that luxury anymore because now it's all gray. You
can look working against you in a way.
Yeah, it kind of prevents identification. But at a medium, I think the gang activity is a little bit less because they have other things. Guys have programs. I guess the overall mentality of a medium is guys aren't there to do a lot of time. They're there to sit for a few years, do their programming needs, and hopefully work their way to a minimum, maybe earn some decent money, put something in the bank before they get out. We do have lifers there, but they're few and far between.
So, what's a daily schedule? Yes, Ed?
Explain to me, earn some money.
Well, some of the minimums have a work release program where they can go and actually earn an actual real wage because the prison wages are very small. It's kind of like, they're expected to hold some type of job, educational, or vocational training. They have to be doing some type of program. Otherwise, they basically get next to nothing for income to buy their canteen, which, hygiene supplies, extra food, snacks, things like that. They get 3 meals a day. You can live off of, there's enough calories if you come and eat your 3 meals. There are some guys that have no personal property. They have no job. They just kind of go in their cells and, maybe they earned enough money to buy a TV years ago and they'll watch TV when they're in their cell or they'll play cards out in the day.
Do they have cable?
No, we don't have cable. There is a prison channel that they sometimes show a very poor selection of older movies. And they can have antennas and they can get up to 7 or 8 channels on those. I'm kind of pro cable because my day room would be a lot quieter and a lot fewer guys out there gambling and playing cards if these guys were watching, Expendables up in their room.
Skinemax, baby.
But that's kind of, everything is kind of inside prison, everything has value, so everything's like a commodity or a chip.
Yeah.
So there's guys that, even the prison food, they'll take everything on their plate because there's one guy who really likes the broccoli and he'll give him his broccoli all week and he'll give him his cake on Thursday. And so they trade things. Everything's a tradable commodity, and it's
interesting.
Well, I know things have changed. A lot of laws. Can they smoke in prison?
They did when I started. Matter of fact, I knew there was this guy. I had to write him a conduct report because he threatened a guy during the mealtime. And I heard him, saw him, and this guy was huge. And he was all agitated. And we went outside and had a cigarette and talked about it before they came to lock him up and put him into segregation. So he was able to calm his nerves and, and things were a little less, formal because it's kind of you're just two guys having a cigarette, talking about something. It's not because here's this huge guy towering over me and, I'm in my little blue uniform and he's in his greens. And this guy is 6'4", and he was one of these guys
You look like a postal guy from Mr. Rogers, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Pretty much. Yeah. We have light blue shirts, dark blue pants. We don't look like don't really
You
look
kind of
like
do look like a
police
postal
officers.
worker.
Yeah. You look more like a postal worker than a cop, to be honest.
Kevin, is there anything you want to add to this, or can I keep grilling him and have you jump in later?
Keep grilling him and then come to me in a bit. We're talking a bit about we'll go over these same things again with me, because there's a few things already that are different to my experience. Yeah.
Right. See, and I'm making a list as we're going.
Good.
So
I'm glad you're organised, because I haven't bothered.
This is a topic I'm genuinely curious about, and apparently, if you give Bob your broccoli, he'll give you his cake.
Yeah, he will.
So
he was having his own cake.
What's the daily schedule for somebody? And you can compare high security to medium security. Just let us know which one you're talking about, so we don't get lost. But yeah, what's a daily schedule for like one of these guys?
I mean, it can vary a lot. There's some guys that really don't have any programming.
Let me ask you, do they lock the doors at night?
Well, the doors of the housing unit at the medium where I work are locked at night.
Right.
So no one
I'm
can
talking
go.
about the room doors.
Well, they're supposed to, according to the rules, but almost none of them do. Because they know we're there and we're awake, because I work nights, and they know nobody is going to come running in there to kick their ass. And I mean, because really it's a security thing. They have keys to their own room.
Oh, okay.
So they can lock it.
That's
they can lock it to their own, and according to the rules, they're supposed to keep it locked whenever they're not passing through the door. It should be locked.
See, I was thinking not like at a dorm. You said it was. I thought they didn't have any keys. You controlled the locks, not them. But they do have control.
Well, in a medium setting in this state, they have the key to their own room. And usually, it's two guys to a room. And we joke when a guy's in a single room and he locks himself out, and I'm like, "Hey, doesn't your asshole Sally let you in? What's the problem?" And he's like, "Well, I talk to him a lot, but he's not that good at opening doors." So I'm like, "Okay."
By the way, Ian says the work release here is pretty decent. I never had any issues with the fellas we used to get at the laundry. We also had the day reporting centers for nonviolent offenders that kept our taxes down with them not locked up for things like child support and traffic offenses. And Gene is heading out. Have a great night, Gene. Thanks for joining us, Ricky.
Good night, Gene. Take care.
But yeah, so what's the daily schedule like? What's it like when they get up in the morning? And the reason I asked about locking doors is because if they don't have toilets in their cells or rooms, do you call them cells or rooms?
Usually rooms. The inmates call it their house.
Okay.
Gonna go back to the house for the night when they're talking to each other. They'll just say our room if they're talking to staff. We just pretty much refer to it as a room or a cell. It's interchangeable. No one seems offended by a different term.
Do they have toilets in there, or is it a separate facility, a separate room?
No, actually, there's a large group bathroom with the showers inside of it. There's a north and a south bathroom right behind the officer station. And it used to be we could see through the windows clearly because fights happen in there. I heard a guy get thrown through a sink, and the sink fell off the wall and shattered. So I'm like, there's no breakable glass on our unit, and so it's like I'm looking around like we're right in the middle of serving a meal, and all of a sudden you hear glass shattering, and I'm like, there's no breakable glass. What am I hearing? And you're like, of course you look over by the server because you think glasses or plates. But none of that it's all plastic, and it's, so then all of a sudden, porcelain. And so then I run into the bathroom, and here is like a bigger black guy and a very small Hispanic guy.
Which one got thrown?
The small Hispanic guy got thrown through the sink.
Oh,
we kindly referred to him as the Mad Jagger because the guy used to jerk off like 20 times a day. I mean, every time you do a round, the guy would be, and they're supposed to like not intentionally expose themselves to you or whatever, but he'd be sitting there under a blanket or doing whatever, and he'd be like, pum, 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 pum. It's like, oh my God, this dude's like the Energizer Bunny of masturbation.
He at least went back to his place to do it, though, right?
Yeah, he would be in his room or whatever, which.
So it wasn't like in the mess hall.
No, but I mean, it was just a lot. And I'm thinking, geez, this guy must, how many lotions does he have to keep from chafing?
get dehydrated. He needs extra water during the day.
Yeah, but apparently the story was he wasn't just content to play with his own. Apparently he saw one that he liked at the urinals and, approached this guy about letting him play with his, and he took offense to that to the point of throwing him through the sink.
It might have been asked more than once in that case.
Yeah, that was a pretty firm no. And then the little guy hit the big guy with a wet floor sign because the janitor had been cleaning just before that. And so you hear this thwap, all of a sudden, shattering glass. And so the Mad Jaeger got thrown through the sink, and he had a pen in one hand and a disposable razor in the other hand when I came in there to get him. And he was trying to play the I don't speak any English type of thing. And I'm like, pretty much, drop that shit now. And then he's like, and then the stuff came out of his hands. And so we brought him out. We handcuffed both of them. They both went to TLU, and until they got to the bottom of, they were both, that was a fight, not a battery, because, basically the small guy attacked him and the guy threw him through the sink. That was like the only violent act of the larger guy, but, that's a fight. They were both attacking each other, so.
Let's see here.
So
Tell you what,
they made
let's
them
take a
roommates
second.
after that.
Yeah.
Before we get too far on, let's give Kevin a chance to kind of catch up with his side of things, and I'll go back to the grilling you with questions after this week in history. Go ahead, Kevin.
All right, let's do the same. I'll start with the basic background, and then you can ask me any specific questions and remind me of a couple of things we've gone over. I worked in the British prison service for just a little over 2 years. I used to work in private sector security when I was younger, doing large capacity event stuff, things like football matches and festivals. And when I gave that job up, came back to the island, I was looking for employment. And my father has worked in the prison service all his life. And so he let me know there was a vacancy, and I went and I worked there for a couple of years until I decided for a change of scene. My dad's been in the prison service since I was 3 years old, so I'm 41 now. He retired last year. He's reached 70, which is now mandatory retirement age for the prison service, although he was kept on past 60 because by the end of his career he'd made his way up to prison governor. So I've been familiar with, although I only worked for just over a couple of years in the prison service myself, I've heard all about it, since I was a little kid sat on my dad's knee. And obviously as I've got older and wiser, I've learned more and more about it from him. Yeah.
So I have a question here before you go on. Okay, again, I'm reiterating, not just for you guys, but for our listeners or viewers, most of our knowledge comes from fucking movies and TV shows, which we do not rely on to be accurate. They're dramatic. But I assume there is a certain level of swagger and power that the guards have. Do you think that has changed since you were a child to now, and they're more gentle or understanding?
I think,
was it always this way?
I think power and swagger, with a couple of notable exceptions, in the same way that with any large group of staff, you always get a couple of bad apples. I don't know if this matches your experiences, but by and large, there are very few people, certainly at this stage in the prison service, who really act in that kind of way. You certainly don't feel powerful just because you're the custodian of another person. It doesn't necessarily impart you with a sense of power. If anything, it imparts you with a sense of, as you referred to earlier, fucking wariness. Because you're really not that powerful a guy when you're outnumbered that heavily. I don't care how good you are at your job. I don't care how close you're stood to an alarm bell. If, as you said earlier, if it kicks off, you're in the shit. And so rather than the people who do have an attitude problem, which is how I'd refer to it in that job, because you need the right kind of mindset to do it for any length of time. And you tend to find that the guys who get a bit power hungry and who act like a bit of swagger, like they're better than the guys they're looking after, don't tend to last long. Either because they're really unpopular and the inmates will make it their daily job to make their life as awkward as fucking possible without actually getting themselves in trouble. or they overstep the mark and they're removed for doing something that they shouldn't have. Yes, it is less pronounced now, perhaps, than it would have been when my father joined the service. I think that's down to the tightening up of regulations and the introduction of stricter controls over things like prisoners' rights.
Okay. Dan, anything to add to that?
No, that's pretty much it.
To make it clear, cut up at any time. We don't have to keep this in a very strict format, but it seems to lend itself to that we're genuinely curious and want to learn about it as opposed to just make bad jokes. But prison sex will be a topic when we get back to This Week in History, because, yeah, we've got to fucking talk about that. And,
wow.
Okay.
So
we love you, Bob.
Ask me some questions then, Travis.
Okay. What's a prison look like in the UK in the sense of when you walk in, what are you looking at? Where's a prisoner sleep? Toilets, bunk beds, orange jumpers? What are we looking at?
You're obviously seeing a certain amount of variation because a lot of British prisons are housed in older buildings that were not originally designed as prisons. Right. For example, the main prison, or the two main prisons on the island here, are both converted World War II army barracks for soldiers that were held and trained here in preparation for D-Day crossings, that kind of thing.
Well, I hear in the UK and Canada, since everybody's so polite, they actually just bring them in the lower level schools and keep them with the kindergartners and lower grades.
Yeah, absolutely no, not at all. The standard format, although it varies a little bit depending on the constrictions of the building it's built into, with a UK prison, you tend to have wings, which is how they're referred to. So you'll have a central hub somewhere which will contain your mess hall, your segregation unit, your admin offices. So all your mess hall facilities are separate from the area where the prisoners live. Then you have wings, which are normally up to 3 landings high, individual cells. I don't know how. This is one question I had, actually, going back to what you were talking about earlier. Now, you mentioned like high security prisons and then a medium. Now, is there like an official grading system for prisons? Is it just the 2? Because I don't know how that system works there.
Yeah, there's actually we actually had 4 levels.
Yeah.
We had minimum, medium, max, and we used to have what was called the super max.
Right.
But that's not politically correct anymore. So now, I mean, because these are guys that have a year or more of segregation time because they've acted in the most, like Jeffrey Dahmer, the guy who ate people, he was killed in prison. The guy who killed him went to the supermax.
Before it slips away, Andrea has some comments to read or questions to read.
Bob wants to know, do British prisons have high tea time?
No, they don't, funnily enough. No, nor does anyone get given fine porcelain china to sip their tea out of.
Oh, no.
Go on. What else?
He also wants to know, where do they send the muggles?
Where do they send the muggles? To Muggle prison, obviously. You don't think we mix them in with the magic prison.
And Ian wants to know, did your dad ever have to deal with IRA types?
Yes, he did. Okay, let me just briefly cover, I suppose. Let me describe the island prison. There were actually at one point 3 prisons here on the Isle of Wight. Now, obviously, you can probably guess why, given the name of the location where I live. And if you don't know this, we haven't covered this earlier, I live on an island just off the south coast of the UK called the Isle of Wight. So by the very nature of the fact that we're surrounded by a body of water, we're a quite logical place to house high security prisoners. Now, the category system in the UK has 3 categories, A, B, and C. So C is your lower end offences, shorter jail times. B is sort of smaller to major crime. And then category A would be murder, terrorism, extreme sexual offences, so on and so forth. And at one point, especially, and I don't know if the name is known in America, but it's certainly a famous name here in the UK, but Parkhurst Prison is here on the Isle of Wight. And the other 2 are Albany and Camp Hill. Now, at one point we had A, B, and C, and then now they've all been amalgamated into one prison now, which operates under the name Her Majesty's Prison Isle of Wight. Ed, were you waving your hand then?
No, Jeffrey Dahmer was prison overcrowding control, says Bob.
Okay, so once again, you're saying older buildings, so they've been retrofitted for the purposes.
To a certain extent, and then other more modern facilities built on around the existing building as the prison's grew.
Okay, going back a little bit. So you're telling me that barracks that were good enough to house American soldiers before going over to fight
British
the Germans
soldiers.
British Allied soldiers before going over to fight the Germans are now being used as prisons. Wow.
Yeah, so part of the prison. Yeah, some of the accommodation wings were newer built because obviously the older buildings wouldn't give you the amount of security in terms of the structure of the building. But those buildings have been amalgamated into what is now the site of the prison, yeah.
And Ed, I get what you're saying. So essentially, soldiers were kept in prison.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe their soldiers were treated decently, so the prisoners are actually getting good quarters. Or not. I don't know.
So going back to what you were saying, yes, in certainly the late 80s especially, there were a high number of the Irish Republican Army's political prisoners. And
that's when they all wore the ones with the arrows on it, like on Benny Hill, right?
No, it's never been the case. It's generally now it's like a tracksuit trouser type affair, which is over jacket. Wow.
Anybody else get that?
Yeah,
I muted myself in case if it was us. I muted ourselves to take it away.
I was just losing them a little.
Man, somebody had to fart awful bad.
Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Totally off the topic. Something that happened this past week. We have 2 battery-operated clocks. One in my office.
Oh, he said battery-operated. I was like, all right, this is a story.
Yeah.
No, I plugged mine in.
I was really expecting this to start getting dirty right here when you said battery.
Both the clocks fell a half hour behind at the same time.
For days.
So I went, oh, batteries. And I went and changed the battery in both the clocks. Reset them to the right time. Within 24 hours, they had both fallen exactly a half hour behind. And I went, fuck, do I have bad batteries? I'm using cheap batteries. I'll fix it tomorrow. Well, yesterday I come out and I look at the clock. I'm like, but that's a half hour behind. And Andrew's like, no, it's right. And I'm like, but it fell behind.
He's like, did you fix it? Nope.
Nobody fixed it.
And the kids ain't going to touch it.
And both clocks have corrected themselves.
Global warming.
And they're at the right...
What?
Global warming.
I don't know. I think the aliens reset it when they brought you back.
Yeah.
Could be. They're like, fuck, he noticed his clock is off, jerk. Hold on. Go get the cat. I mean...
We don't want any more lost time incidents here.
Time travel thing? Sorry, I'm not that good.
We only traveled back a half hour. We suck at this. We're amateur steampunk.
Choose wisely.
Okay, Kevin, any thoughts to wrap this up in the next 2 minutes, and we'll go into This Week in History?
No, let's do This Week in History and come back to it. Yeah, we'll have.
So we can go on.
Some of the differences. Yeah.
Okay. And Andrea printed out the whole Google Doc so we can't click on links though.
Yeah, I'm sitting here ready to wait for the music break and all that stuff. And,
do you need a break, Ed?
No, I do not. Let's roll.
We don't have any music unless you're going to sing. That's part of your duties, Dan. As the guest, you have to entertain us. Sing.
Do you juggle?
I have my guitar on the other side of the room.
Oh, nice.
I'm liking you more.
I play like crap.
Yeah, you, me too. Even now, I like you even more. So we got so much in common.
We don't need.
I was going to use it right on.
I'll have to go and get the celebrity guitar in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. So, what happened this week in history, Ed?
I don't have shit. Go ahead.
Oh, geez.
You got to say the line.
Shit happened, y'all.
There you go.
Okay. So,
what happened?
This is stuff we had for last week, and we just totally forgot to do it because
They didn't know that.
I know. If Briar Cub was here last week, Devnall and Fabian and his wife Liza were here. That was pretty much our crowd last week. And Ian, we will let Kevin get back to the IRA stuff in a little bit.
I was just typing to it now, actually.
So some of the stuff we covered, we're going to cover for New Year's, is some of the stuff that went on last year that were fads, that came and went. For example, fidget spinners. So what happened to fidget spinners, guys?
They're not fidgety anymore.
Did any of you have one?
No, God, no.
I think they were replaced by porgs.
We can only hope.
The only fidget spinner I have is a Batman one, and it doesn't spin, but it's hanging on my wall.
So what about vaping? Vaping was huge this time last year.
Ed's doing it right now.
But it kind of like really faded. Did they ever decide if it's killing people or not? Because they're like, oh, it builds.
No, this is
lungs.
right. I get a lot of shit. I get a lot of shit from my workmates because I'm now pretty much the only one out of our kitchen team who still smokes. Nearly all of them now, with the exception of one of our kitchen porters, have all switched to vaping. So I get the whole, oh, it's really unhealthy for you though, man. Like, why don't you switch to vaping? It's like, smoking's going to kill you. I'm like, show me the medical papers that prove scientifically vaping is safe for you. When cigarettes came out, the advertising said, these things are fucking great for you, and look at what we know about them now. Now, you come back to me in 20 years
and prescribe them.
Yeah.
Doctors used to prescribe it. And cocaine.
The truth
they have a laxative effect.
Yeah. It's just not been around long enough.
Cigarettes make you shit?
Peer-reviewed.
Not that I've ever noticed, but that's what they used to say.
No wonder they're like, this shit is good.
Yeah, couple that with coffee, and you're going, man.
Okay. Another thing that was big this time last year, matter of fact, it went public on the stock market, Snapchat.
Responsible for more photos I've ever seen of my friends looking like fucking poodles than I ever thought imaginable.
You're welcome. You're
No,
probably
just
just talking about us.
I want to know from the people listening tonight, right? Who uses Snapchat? And if you do you just use it to send pictures to people, or do you use those fucking god-awful filter things? Like, why would you want to make yourself look like a fucking fairy?
Why not? It's funny as shit.
Before anyone starts getting offended.
Tell us how you really feel, dude.
I tried to face swap with my porg earlier. It didn't work.
Totally true. No, the reason I like Snapchat is because I could dress up as goofy shit without ever getting off my fat, lazy ass. And then I could go, look. And then we turn it off and go back to watching the movie.
There's a British comedian who does a sketch about how he thinks things in life should be accurately named for what they are to avoid confusion. So he's like, for example, Snapchat should be renamed Speedwank.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, the other thing that I know Ed is disappointed that it didn't catch on are the male rompers.
No, I'm not disappointed. And I can tell you why it's gone. The first 2 or 3 guys that put that shit on got their asses kicked so fucking bad. Gone.
By women.
Yeah.
And then they stole the rompers from them.
No. I think even women shouldn't wear rompers because if you gotta go pee, you take the whole thing off. You're just like naked, and it touches the public toilet. No.
Maybe we should make this catch on again.
Not 70 reason women shouldn't wear rompers.
Oh, also last year, Starbucks in a marketing genius move came out with mythical creature drinks such as the unicorn, dragon, and mermaid drink. That was a nice little fad.
They were pretty, but they were fucking disgusting.
Like Snapchat coffee?
I get kind of. Well,
They
do you know what we're
Snapchatted their
talking about, Dan?
coffee.
Dan, are you familiar with what we're talking about? What Starbucks did?
I don't think I've been there in the last year.
Well, it was all over the TV and stuff, and they made a unicorn one and it had like glitter and chopped up unicorn. I don't know.
Yeah, basically, it was almost rainbow colored. It was like cotton candy colors blended together in a frappe.
All these
Wow.
colors that shouldn't mix.
And then they got darker colors and called it the dragon. So it was like dark green and red blended together.
It looks like barf.
And from what I understand, I never had one, but I understand they were like super sugary.
I wouldn't spend $5 on one.
Now, Andrea, you wrote the next one. Do you want to talk about that one?
What? I didn't write "Cash Me Outside." How about that? I don't know. That's some stupid white chick.
You guys remember that on TV? One chick kept me out.
Yeah.
Dr. Phil show.
Is that what it was from? I just know the memes. What the fuck is this?
She actually, and this goes to show how far we've fallen. She actually recorded an album. Some rapper picked her up and recorded an album. Yeah.
You're kidding me. Oh my god.
She's making cash, man. She's making cash outside
her.
now.
Good for her. Like,
Yeah, well,
Oh, how far we've fallen.
all these things we're covering is why I don't watch TV. So that's why I'm less
we don't
familiar
have
than anyone else.
TV.
Jamin, by the way, got his stitches out and his cast off, and he's doing
Good
well from what I
job.
understand.
So he can do this again?
And
Good,
this.
Jim.
Now, I had a couple links, which, due to my internet
Push the link.
handicap, but I can tell you about it. Now, the first thing is we've all heard about Kid Rock is being sued by Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah.
Did y'all hear about that?
Because his new tour is described as the greatest show on earth, which apparently
Correct.
they own the rights to the tagline, don't they?
That's correct.
Good. It's words.
So I'm glad that the camera doesn't go down low. They can't see when I scratch my nuts. So yeah,
Nope.
Me
he's
neither.
Can't see when Andrea scratches hers either.
Oh, then there was now this is a touchy thing, but they're coming out with Ocean's 8, which is the females, Julia Roberts and 7 other females doing a heist. Matt Damon has a cameo in it.
Yeah.
Now, after he made his comments, are you guys familiar with his comments about women? Okay, basically, he was on like a 12 or 15-minute interview where the interviewer asked him about the Harvey Weinstein and all this stuff going on with pressing charges and people losing their careers. And he said, no, I agree, it's horrible, and these things need addressed, and I'm glad women are empowered and can come out and talk about this stuff, and it can be taken care of so it doesn't continue to happen. But I think there needs to be a separation between gently patting somebody on the butt and full-out rape, and they cannot be handled the same way.
And people are like, oh no, you can't say that.
People basically went, Matt Damon is all for rape.
It's not. Well, it's like take it.
So now they don't want him in the movie.
Right. They want them to pull him out.
Bullshit, because women are fucking stupid. If a guy comes to and it says, hey, you'll get this part, come to my hotel room, and answers the door in nothing but his drawers, don't fucking go in there. But if you do, don't say, hey, this happened. Don't be stupid.
Well, or if you're at a party with a guy and he walks up to you and whispers in your ear, I want to fuck you. Don't get dressed up in a negligee later at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to his room with a bottle of champagne. Guess what he's going to think?
Yeah, take responsibility for your actions. I mean, do you really need a job that bad where you're going to do this? If you do, that's your choice. If not, say no. You could say no.
Let's see. We also had, Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter. Somebody
I know what this one's going to be. Yeah,
He's a wizard,
the
Harry.
moped mugger. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody got mugged. Now, it was 2 weeks ago I read this article, so I'm trying to remember. The mugger was on the moped, I believe.
Yeah.
And they basically ran and snatched. Now, Daniel Radcliffe
It's a common tactic in London. They'll ride slowly along the street on a moped looking for a woman who's unguardedly carrying her bag loosely, and they just ride up behind you at slow speed, snatch it off you and speed off. It's not a new thing, but there's been a big outbreak of it in London recently, the use of mopeds and scooters.
Now, Daniel Radcliffe did not get involved in the mugging or get in between a knife and somebody, but he came to the victim's assistance after it happened. And people just went crazy, which, it's great to see anybody come to the rescue. And
let me just look into that. I'm pretty sure he might actually have spoken to the guy.
He did. Matter of fact, all the rescue workers who came, whether it was a fire, ambulance, police, whoever came, said he was very nice. But obviously, Daniel did not try to he didn't try to use this for his own PR.
No, he did it because he's a nice human. And just because everybody knows who he is, the publicity happened.
Yeah, but good for him for being a decent human being.
And people like to follow celebrities, so hopefully they'll follow that example by being nice.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he just wanted to do something. He wanted to be handy for his new movie, Swiss Army Man.
He whipped out his little red knife.
Multiple uses. They can stop muggings. Filthy muggle. I mean, mugger.
He thought he was stopping a muggle.
He thought he was stopping a muggle, but then it was a mugger. Damn
Now,
English language.
Kevin, get back to us when you find out more. I'll go on with the last thing I have.
No,
here.
you're right. He didn't. He didn't actually. He came on the scene after the guy, after someone had chased the robbers off, and he comforted the victim afterwards.
Right. Now, you guys, barring Dan, you guys know how goofy I am about graphene.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have now discovered if you take graphene 2 layers thick, in other words, 2 molecules thick, they can create material that's as flimsy as my shirt right here that will stop a bullet.
Nice.
Hey, we saw something like that.
And John Wick?
Yeah.
By the way, John Wick, great movie if you guys haven't seen it. Part 1 and 2 is good.
Is the tailor in?
Yes, exactly. But yeah, there's one more use for graphene. It turns harder than diamond when hit by a bullet, but it has to be 2 layers thick. Any thicker than that, and it reacts differently because of the speed, heat, etc.
I just had my friend went out on New Year's Eve dressed in a John Wick costume. Essentially, he just put on a smart suit with a white shirt, got someone to flick some fake blood down the front of him, and then had a pair of handguns and had a toy dog drenched in fake blood on a lead tied to the back of his belt, dragging along the floor everywhere he went.
Was he going to a PETA meeting?
No.
No,
if he was going to a PETA meeting, he wouldn't have had to take the dog with him. PETA would have given him as many dead animals as he wanted.
That's true. Good point.
He started on PETA. God damn it.
By the way, Wynn says if Matt had any sense, he wouldn't want to be in a shitty retread movie anyway. Von Hegder wants to know if you guys are putting Moggies in prison.
Moggies?
I think it's Muggles, but
Muggles. Yeah, we have special Muggle prisons, so they don't like to cohabit with magical kids.
And this one is actually clever. So I'll read Bob's one here. It says, in Brit prison is gay sex called a Muggle snuggle.
It is now.
It should
and by
be.
the way, I don't think that's gay sex, Bob. I think that's just called sex in prison.
Oh, Muggle snuggle. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it is.
Good one, Bob.
Any birthdays, anyone?
Well, I do have a few other current event typey thingies.
Okay, but
On December 30th, Ringo Starr and Barry Gibb received their knighthoods from Queen Elizabeth II. Cool.
Nice.
Along with a few other people who should never have fucking got them.
Yeah. 22 years ago this past weekend, Motorola released the famous StarTAC flip phone.
Nice. By the way, Von Hegner, what is a Moggy? We don't know what those are, apparently.
And
Well, it's British slang, it's a cat.
Oh, is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys have multiple Moggies.
This is why we need that the Talkers Tavern version.
You know, the great thing is when I named the cat for the steampunk comic book, I named him Mr. Moggles. If I had known that, I would have just gone with Mr. Moggy. Like Mr. Miyagi. It's only good for Siamese cats. Go on, Ed.
Yeah, after I change screens here. January 1st, 1963, the whoopee was introduced to the U.S. Army. Wow, that was my favorite piece of equipment there, man.
Whoopee, like a blanket?
It's poncho liner.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Poncho liner.
Poncho
Woodland
liner.
camouflaged.
I didn't know that. I'm not military.
And this
Was it
week,
made of like wool?
no, it's a poly material, a quilted poly material, warm as hell. Love that baby.
No.
Did you see the picture I posted from the camping this weekend?
Yes.
Where I was out? That was my whoopee.
See, I'm not so sure that me and my buddies didn't actually coin that a whoopee. I don't know. I was in from 92 to 95, and I carried a machine gun, so I had 100 pounds of stuff. So I didn't carry a lot of gear to the field because you had to jump out of a plane with everything. So I wasn't bringing SpaghettiOs and a
At
bunch
5'6", your gear weighed almost as much as you then.
Yeah, I carried like 2/3 of my body weight around. I was about 150, 155 pounds.
Well,
And,
I went in 83, and we were calling them whoopies way back then.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. See, my brother was in the Marine Corps from 83 to 89.
Oh,
So it's like,
You're young, then. You're the baby of the family then, huh?
I'm 9th out of 10.
Oh my God. Did her uterus fall out, man?
Nope. And she doesn't live in a shoe.
Anymore.
Not since the kids left, fuckers. She's now in a loaf.
She's now in a sensible flat.
What else you got, Ed?
one last one here. Everybody know the Golden Globe Awards was last night, and
that's the one for like beautiful breasts, right?
whatever. Well, and the big Time's Up, meaning the attack on sexism, blah 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 blah, and all that bullshit. All the women were supposed to wear black for solidarity. Well, Blanco didn't get the memo because she didn't wear black, and I posted a link here that shows the most gorgeous red dress that she wore. And I guess women only have solidarity if you're doing what they're doing and follow along with the crowd, because apparently she received a lot of hatred for not wearing the black with everyone else and going her own way and being her own individual. Wow.
Hey, Robin.
I don't understand that. So wearing all black is going to do what? Is that like clicking like and praying for somebody?
I guess so. Whatever.
That really works.
So what was her name? Blanco?
Blanco.
Blanco.
Isn't that white?
Isn't that white? Is she supposed to wear black? I mean, she probably just gave up. She's like, my name is white. How non-black can I get? So I might as well just go with a third color altogether. What's black, white, and red all over? Her.
Can you see the dress?
There's the dress.
I cannot fault her for wearing that.
Well, and she got attacked because of the style of the dress. She's wearing the typical sexist Hollywood, blah, 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 blah. Get the fuck over yourself, people!
Yeah.
Did she feel good about herself in it?
I
Or
don't
did it right?
I felt
I
good
expect
about
to
her.
see all you guys wearing red next week so you can protest against hating on non-joiners.
And Bob says black is the new red.
That's pretty though.
I'm definitely going with the / bear midriff thing when I do mine.
Right.
So
I
you're
will
going back to a radio show, Travis?
Yeah. It's Ed. You saw Robin joined us, right?
Hey, baby! She's fighting the flu. We took her,
I know. Are you
we took
feeling
her
any better,
camping,
Robin?
got her
We're sorry to
sick.
hear you not well.
Is that from the camping trip?
Out there, 8 degrees in snow.
It was great.
Did she have a woogie?
Whoopee.
A whoopie?
I volunteered to be
A woogie is the guy from Something About Mary. Very different.
You didn't give Robin a whoopie? So now she's sick.
Well, it was too cold for me to give her my whoopee.
It was this cold out there,
Yeah,
Ed.
it was this cold, I think.
Okay, we could go back to the topic unless we got any deaths, birthdays, etc.
Deaths, I didn't bother doing. Birthdays, real quick. January 7th, 1964, actor Nicolas Cage. January 8th, 1947, rocker David Bowie. January 9th, 1944, rocker Jimmy Page. January 11th, 1971, R&B artist Mary J. Blige. And this last one, we need to get this fucker on the show. January 12th, 1954. I know you're listening, Howard. Shock Jock Howard Stern.
He would be fun to have on the show, huh? And
He wouldn't be offended.
Probably not.
I read an interesting fact about Bowie today. Everyone else know that he originally auditioned and was lined up to play Elrond in the Lord of the Rings movie?
Was he?
Oh.
Yeah. But they decided he was too big a name and he would detract from the part, draw too much attention.
Interesting. I don't think I can get to the birthdays on my phone. Hold on, maybe here.
No, if you go to...
Hold on, I got it. And
then I have a death. There's a death that died.
There's a death that died. Okay. See, they don't give last names, though, so I have to guess at this shit. What the hell? Okay, here we go. We got this. So, Nicole Ordway of Haddon Cross Steampunk Publishing and Fatboy Greg Talley. Let's see. Ron Romero, who does the Steampunk Teapot Races. Mississippi, who's a steampunk musician. Jack Hollingsworth, who we'll see this weekend.
Haddon Cross Saloon. Not Haddon Cross. Oh, my God. Cross Time Saloon. Sorry.
And Jerry has one on the 15th. And I think it's worth mentioning, even though it falls in the next week's show, a certain Heidi Wynn has a birthday on the 16th. So,
yes, she does.
Happy birthday to all our birthday people this week.
The only thing... are we going into death now?
We could go into death.
The only person I know that died this week is... I didn't know him. Dick Van Dyke's brother. Jerry died.
Jerry.
Yeah. I saw that. I don't keep up with people that die.
And I want to do a quick shout out to Ian, who's listening tonight, and thank him for responding to my YouTube videos, as Ed does also. Really appreciate the conversation. And that's funny.
I missed that side article, Ian. I have to go back and check it out later.
I think Ian should post us a link for science.
Here's a response to what I posted earlier today. I'll just show Andrea. I don't think you guys actually care, so I won't go into it.
You should do that.
I should do what?
Not you.
Oh, I don't think Steph is watching this, but there we go. We had a few more comments. Oh, Kevin's talking to him. Camping trip or 400 kids at school I work at. Good choice. Go camping in 8-degree weather.
School's been canceled a lot out here.
See, I tried to type tough choice and inadvertently typed touch choice, which I thought the reason I corrected myself was because you'd mentioned 400 kids in the previous sentence. So.
Yeah, and right before that, we're talking about the woman in the dress.
Your Freudian slip's showing.
Okay, so I don't know which one of you guys want to pick this up. Kevin, you had more to add to what you were going to talk about.
See, you were writing a list earlier as you went down of certain points, weren't you?
Yes,
go back over that. Just give me a reminder, because
that list was more I wanted to talk about, not necessarily what we had already talked about.
All right, fair enough.
So I know the IRA thing. I don't know if we finished with that.
I answered it in the chat box for anyone who's not following that or watching this one later. Yes, as well as other more notable prisoners, my father did look after several notable IRA prisoners, including the Guildford Four and a couple of members of the Birmingham Six. So.
And Darby O'Gill. And the little people.
Hey,
Don't say that.
Yeah, I know that my father found some of them more difficult to deal with than people who were incarcerated for more serious or horrific crimes in the sense that they were the only ones who constantly hammered on about the fact that they shouldn't be there, that they weren't criminals, they were prisoners of war, which stuck in his craw. They said, I've never seen a war where a soldier walks into a civilian pub and blows up 30 civilians as an act of war. That's not an act of war, it's an act of terrorism. You're not a soldier, you're a terrorist. Apologies to anybody who is a fan of the IRA out there that I might have offended.
I'd have to concur, though. I mean, you know, having been a soldier and being in a prison, if somebody had come up, like the only thing that ever really offends me is some of these idiots pretending they were soldiers.
Yeah.
And it's some guy saying, "Oh, I was special forces and all this."
One of the things I wanted to ask about, because it's something that you don't tend to see in British prisons, but is obviously sort of portrayed as being a big thing whenever you see American prisons on TV and films, is the whole continuation of gang affiliation from the streets inside prisons. Now, is that really a big thing? Do you see a lot of clear delineation between races? Is there much representation of famous gangs within the prison service?
Well, I think certain gangs are more famous than others, and so like what you're going to see in movies is like the Bloods and the Crips, but there are like two different main delineations of gangs nationwide, and like the Bloods are one, the Crips are another. I'm not really an expert. I really don't care. I just address behavior individually. I don't have to deal with a lot of group. It used to be group petitions and disturbances was if you're a member of any disruptive group or whatever and you stage something as a group, that's kind of like almost like the prison equivalent of like inciting a riot.
Yeah.
But these guys keep their affiliations, but as far as in a medium, the activity is pretty minimal. There was an actual prison anniversary just a couple of weeks ago. I've been off of work for the last 10 days on vacation, and somebody posted this email, and it was about a gang incident in a Chicago prison, and it was a member of a Latin King gang, and he was disrespected by a rival gang, and or actually it was another member of their own gang from a different little faction or whatever, and they actually ground this guy up in the kitchen. They killed him down in the showers down below. This guard who was dirty let them have a going away party for their homie down below the cell hall and the shower area. They killed him. The showers washed all the blood away. They chopped him into like 5-6 pieces and then took him to the kitchen, ground him up, and apparently he was part of the meatloaf. And the only thing that wouldn't fit through the grinder was his skull. It kept rolling around. And that was later found a couple of years later, buried in the yard at, I think it was Joliet Prison.
Wow.
And this was, this all happened, that's within a gang because this guy disrespected a higher ranking member. Our prisons are pretty Mr. Rogers compared to some of that. I mean, considering... Yeah. Wisconsin has probably had some of the most notorious like serial killers ever, Ed Gein and Jeffrey Dahmer and stuff like that.
It's the cheese.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it must slow you down a little bit or something.
Here's a question from Master Dupree. What are your feelings about privatization of prisons versus government-funded prisons?
How long have you got?
2 minutes each. Go.
We have until 11.
It's becoming massively more prevalent. The outsourcing of prison facilities to private firms.
I'm curious about Ed's reaction there.
I think I'm just going to leave it at this. It's like any situation. We have a professional body that's spent decades honing how to do a job properly. And then you hire some outside guy who hasn't got a fucking clue about the industry and ask him to do the job for you.
And we're paying twice as more for fucking tax dollars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dan?
Well, they've had privatized prisons in this country in different states. And some of the inmates that I've dealt with have been there. And they loved it there. Because you had a bunch of like Burger King dropouts that were working there, getting tattooed by the inmates. Female staff members, giving out blowjobs like they're lollipops at the bank. I mean, it's just, just a complete lack of competence, professionalism, and it's just, I mean, hey, it's, when you were a little kid and
now it's turning that lollipop for a blowjob.
Well, I don't know, but it seems like, your jar would run empty of the lollipops before the other one. Well,
so they just, this is a segue into prisons. Go ahead. Sorry, Dan.
Well, but it's like nothing's really improved. I mean, the food wasn't better, anything else. But the thing of it is, the supervision was terrible. The complete lack of professionalism.
I don't know if this is the same there, but from shop talk, if you like, in this country, it seems to be that when you have a private firm in that kind of scenario, there's a much higher ratio of untrained officers to competent supervisory staff. That's the big issue. There's a fairly good ratio in terms of the number of ordinary officers, not to belittle the job, to supervisors within the British prison service. In the private prisons, you tend to find that there's much smaller numbers of these fully trained supervisors overseeing the officers. So you have large amounts of officers essentially left to make up how they conduct their job without any real oversight. And that's where a lot of the errors start to come from, because it's not an environment. It's an easy environment if you work in it for a long period of time to get complacent in. And complacency is where the danger starts, because you have to remember that as much as one prison is different from another, and generally speaking, they're not hotbeds of continual daily violence and trouble. You get the occasional incident, but by and large, it's not in anybody's interest to make trouble. But you have to be aware that it's a constant danger. And in that kind of scenario, when you've got guys with poor training and then you don't really have anybody who knows better overseeing them, it's a recipe for disaster. And we've seen that, unfortunately, played out in violent situations, confrontations, officer injuries, so on and so forth, within that kind of context.
Well, and that's what's kind of interesting about, I guess without getting into the whole debate or whatever, is things have changed in our prison system a lot in the last, 8 years. Act 10, they basically forced the unions out, and, in my mind, okay, the Governor Walker, his buddies who supported him and got him elected, and this guy was a crook since he went to Marquette University. I mean, he tried to rig a college election, and he got elected governor. I mean, in years past, there would be people that would be too embarrassed for that to come up that wouldn't even run. But not, he had all the TV advertisements from the Cook brothers, and they're in favor of privatizing prisons. So what they do is, well, if the state won't go for it, which I think 90% of the state would just say no across the board, he's trying to do it without nominally making it another, basically wants to make being a correctional officer a transitional job that you do for a few years, maybe you stick around and you move up, but basically have a bunch of flunkies at the officer level, not somebody like myself. I was college educated before I went into the prison system. I choose to be an officer because of the variety of jobs that I can choose from or things that I can do. And generally, most of the sergeants that I've worked with, they have less time in and less experience, and they ask me for advice. Hey, how do you, and they ask me to help them along and become a better sergeant. Yeah. And a lot of our supervisors were new officers that I took under my wing that are now supervisors now that I've been in it for a while. But it's rapidly, we see some of the people coming in, and we're having people fired for the most ridiculous of things that nobody would think of doing years ago.
Yeah.
And it's almost, we're getting to that point where now we're a private prison in Tennessee, just judging by our I always call it where the rubber meets the road is the blue shirt officer staff, because you're the one dealing with an inmate either out on the unit or across the desk, and you have the most interactions with those inmates. Are you going to make that, are you going to basically, based on your interactions, how is that inmate going to act? Does he know everything's going to be taken care of? If he has a legitimate right to have something, he's going to get it, and if he's full of shit, he's going to get shot down. That's pretty much the state you have to keep and maintain, and it's a million times more complicated, but that's what it all boils down to. It. Does he have this coming or does he not?
Ian has a comment, by the way. Hold on, let me put my reading glasses back on. I can't.
2 secs on there.
Okay. Kevin will get it.
Kids for Cash scandal is a perfect example of how bad an idea privatizing of prisons really is.
I'm not familiar with that. Can you abbreviate.
He's put in a Wikipedia link. Unfolded it 2 days.
Ed,
Pardon me.
do you know what that is?
Basically, the private prison gets money for every child that's sent there. So kids are going to prison for stupid shit, basically, whether there's been a real crime committed or not.
Yeah, so from what I'm reading, it's essentially kickbacks from the owner of 2 private prisons to judges in order to get them to give longer sentences or harsher
sentences. Yeah, your kid missed 10 days of school and they're locking him up for a year. Stupid shit like that.
Basically becoming a now for the guy who owns the private prisons.
Yeah, because it's all money based and motivated.
Yeah, capitalism is wonderful, but it's also horrible at the same time.
Well, it's wonderful if it has the right checks and balances.
You know, my dad wants to know, is Elvis in the Tennessee prison system?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is he a guard or a warden?
That's probably why we've never seen him again. He loves it there because they got idiots for staff members. He can do whatever he wants.
So earlier there was mention of sex. So let's go into the prison sex thing. How often does it happen?
Travis has been trying to get into prison sex since the start of the show.
Well, the one guy does with himself all the time.
Right.
Until he got thrown into a sink.
Through a sink. The sink is no more.
Through a sink.
I still give people the tour. Say, you see, one of these is not like the others. This is what happened.
So you can get a tour of the prison?
Mm-hmm.
No, when they get in there.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
I'm so naive.
It's like when we're doing like urinalysis testing or something. We go in the bathroom and a guy uses the sink. I go, you notice that one's different than the others? And they look real close. And they go, oh yeah. I say, yeah, that's the one that the Mad Jagger got thrown through. They're like, and then they ask for. Of course, you can't just throw a name like that out there. Who is that? I'm like
that
the guy who got thrown through the sink.
Interestingly enough, it's not something that normally happens, but I did get a tour of a prison when I was 15, thanks to obviously my dad and his job. So I studied. I'm going to sound really horribly pretentious now. I took an A-level in law when I was younger because I was thinking about going into law. And the paper I had to write, I wrote on, at the time, I'm sure it's wildly different now, but I wrote a paper on the difference between the British and American judicial and prison systems and the major differences between the two. Yeah, we're talking a long time ago now, when I was like 16, 17, so just a couple of
10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But he arranged for me to go in and, for the sake of perspective, to see a British prison. And obviously this was during lockdown. I didn't see any prisoners while I was there, but he took me in, showed me around the outside of the wings, showed me some of the communal areas, and then took me down to where he was in charge of at the time, which we refer to as the SEG. I don't know, what's their favorite term in American prisons? Solitary?
Mm-hmm. No, we call it SEG.
Yeah, it's the segregation unit, so we just call it the SEG. And then my dad was the PO in charge of the SEG at the time, so he took me down there to show me the actual area of the prison where he worked. And then for a chuckle, like a mug, I step inside the cell to take a look at the inside of the cell. Clang. My dad fucked off to go and get a cup of tea and left me in there for 15 minutes.
Because they had high IT in prison back then.
Yes, yeah. They don't normally, but the Queen was visiting.
And by the way, Robin, this is a German tobacco with 14 years of age on it called Peter Heinrich. So it's an English blend. I'm trying it for the first time, and I'm hoping it's great.
It'd be pronounced Rick, as in the German name, Heinrich.
It's Peter Heinrich.
Like Himmler from Sivart?
Yeah, it's Peter Heinrich. So I'm hoping it's great because it's a brand new tin, 14 years old, but brand new, just opened, and it'll last me quite a while if it's nice. If it's not nice, it'll last somebody else a while.
Here, I don't like it. Try.
Okay. So back to that last bit that he just talked about. Ironically, our prison, we have tours come through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
And the inmates are walking around, and I think people are kind of flabbergasted. They're expecting it to be all locked down, and no one. And these guys are all just walking around, and it's like, If they're just dressed a little different.
Is that because that provides extra financial income for the prison, like paid tours?
No, it isn't paid tours. Sometimes if there's mostly I think it's educational, but every year there's an open house, which you'd think those words just would not apply at a prison. But the warden does this. We have a female warden, and just to avoid confusion, because I'm she just, there are students in criminal psychology and different things like that, and they'll have different groups that have an educational interest in seeing what it's actually like and how things actually function inside. And you're no, these aren't all mad dogs. People make mistakes and they have to pay for them. They're not all Hannibal Lecters, and you have to keep them away or they'll rip your face off. It's we're not talking about rabid dogs.
I don't know if your experiences bear this out as well, but quite often as well, appearances are deceiving. Some of the nastiest little bastards I met while I was inside are the ones that look the least capable of committing a violent crime. You really can't judge a book by its cover, to a certain extent anyway.
Oh, right. I mean, you look at Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, you just look at a picture of him. He looks like Kurt Cobain, which you might think he looks like a scuzzbag or something, but I mean, this guy might, bum a cigarette from me and not pay me back. Now, this guy's going to chloroform someone's face and eat him. I mean, you just, he was always so quiet. He was such a good neighbor. Those are the, that people like to joke up here and when they have race riots and things like that, you're hey, that's all well and good when you have riots. Because there was a thing in Milwaukee where there was a cop that had shot a suspect, and then they had this big riot going on, and then they're well, the cop was black, and so was the suspect. And it's and then somebody makes the joke, they're but if you're really going to lose your shit, white people, when they lose their shit, they really lose it. Then they bury people under their porch and eat them and stuff.
That sounds like they're keeping their shit together pretty well for doing something horrible.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, so what? A couple of little fires, some rocks got thrown. That's nothing compared to eating people.
You go in the backyard, dig up the garden, and find dinosaur bones.
It's funny.
I have a couple of memories of more shocking incidents involving my dad, not so much my time there, but actually, and one thing I want to explain, because bless him, Bob, who's fascinated by the whole wood shampoo complex this evening.
What
the
is that?
The reason let's not get into that now. The reason I never got anywhere near a wood shampoo, Bob, is because I was never near the shower blocks while the prisoners were in there. And the reason is that my job when I was there was actually a very specific one. I was essentially a bodyguard for civilian workmen within the prison. I was there on a fixed term contract because they had civilian plumbers and electricians working within the prison over the period of 2 years I was there, retrofitting by removing all the old water storage tanks from the loft spaces where obviously you have issues with potential for things like Legionnaire's disease, fitting a little point of exit boiler. So they worked in nearly every room in the prison, and it was an extensive long-term contract. So a lot of my time was spent around and in the areas where prisoners were, but I wouldn't have been near the shower block while they were showering because obviously there'd have been no need for the works team to be in the area at that time.
Okay.
Well, I did that on my first day on the job. So we had a 4-tier cell hall that was locked down for a week, and the showers were in between the north and the south cell halls. And you could put there were 37 shower heads because it was 37 cells on one side of a tier. So they would send down one side, the front side of 8. There was A, B, C, and D in the north, and then it was E, F, G, and H in the south. So they would send the front of E tier down, and they would go shower. But as they were coming out, now the next group was coming in, and if they're sitting there locked in their cells, nobody leaving their cells because they were wet cells. And it looks like you ever see the what was the movie where Tommy Lee Jones played the IRA bomber, and he was in that prison? It was like Green Bay looks like an old prison. It's all metal. There's cages. It's bars everywhere. So my first day out of the academy, my first day online, They just came off of a 7-day lockdown, and so I have to stay in showers, which is, don't ask me why, one of the biggest places where these guys fight. Because anytime there's movement in a maximum security, that's if they're on their way to school or back from school, on their way to rec or back from rec, that's when someone's going to hit someone, because it's confusion. There's a lot of movement. It's hard to tell who did what. But in the showers, slipping around on the floor, I was not looking forward to having to pull somebody off of somebody else, both of them naked. But that's what you're in for when you go in there. And so, brand new guy, day one, I had to sit down there for 4 hours while all these guys who were pent up talking shit between their cells now have to pass and rub shoulders on their way to and from the shower room with the guys they've been talking all their smack to for the last week, and hope that none of it was too serious, because I really don't want to slide around them. I mean, you could bust your head before you ever lay a finger on anyone. You go
But
in
you
there,
got a whole lot more to grab a hold of, and they'll probably listen to you to grab a hold of that too.
Yeah, well, if I just happen to on the way down just blindly reach out,
if you know what I mean.
Not everyone's like you, Ed.
Okay. By the way, Ian said, agree with the programs that take your unruly kids with mom and dad's permission and lock them away from 24 to 48. Usually corrects your behavior right quick. What?
I'm like, I got one.
They call that scared straight.
Yeah.
Here we call it the Youth Awareness Program.
Damn it, I forgot what I was going to ask. Are we avoiding how often prisoners have sex with each other? Are we avoiding that topic altogether?
No, I just think we keep going.
Is it mostly by themselves or with each other?
And I'm guessing it's usually consensual if and when it happens.
It's funny because in the last year or so, there's been this huge push, and it's the buzzword is called PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act. It's basically a federal law that was passed to try to prevent this sexual assault inside prisons, and they want to make sure that there's a clear and well-known mechanism for reporting any type of crime or activity that happens. And my thing is, when you're doing rounds at night, some of these guys will cell up because there's double cells, and obviously sometimes some of these guys will want to sell up for those reasons. Me, I would just as soon, kind of keep my ear to the ground like Tonto, and kind of know which guys are likely to want to pair up in a room and avoid that whole situation. Because now I come in, I work nights now, just because there's less activity.
You're talking, they both decide to become roomies, right?
Right. So then right, and then they request, one guy moves out, or he gets released, he's transferred to another facility or another housing unit for a program, and then so and so, I get along with him, can I get him to move in there? And now you have staff that have worked with the same guys, which for the most part you kind of know. Like we had one guy, and it was like, oh boy, you see who his roommate, and you're like, oh joy. And you see some of these guys, they're like what I call the prison bitch Pamela Andersons. They're like young white boys. Some of them have long hair. They're the closest thing to a girl that most of these guys have seen in a long time. And, the term ass like a 10-year-old boy kind of comes into play, which that term I've always felt, why the hell would anybody say that? Talking about something good. I'm like, but anyway,
again,
so
these Pamela Andersons in prison, they do it on purpose to get that attention.
Yeah, so, and what they'll do is they have a bunch of people, actually we have like a sex offender treatment program is like the specialty of the prison that I'm at. There's a whole unit, and they have this like
weirder.
Intensive,
I'd like specialty of the house, please.
Well, they built this whole unit, and they have all these programs, and basically, if at some point, you've been convicted more than once of these, serious sex offenses, and you don't get through this program, and they don't give you a clean bill of mental health, they do what's called a 980. There's a 980 laws, whatever, and they are locked away for the rest of their lives in a mental institution because they're not necessarily a violent offender, but they're going to molest a child again when they get out. And if they can't make a determination that there's hope that this person can be rehabilitated to some degree to the point of not reoffending, they fail the program, and when their release date comes, they are committed by the state to a mental health facility.
Now, this is a big criticism, especially in the last decade, of the British prison system, is that we don't have that. They come in, they serve their time, and we have the rehabilitation programs, and they are made to go through them, but regardless of the result, unless they, at the end of their time, they're released. And many of them sadly do then go on to reoffend and are brought back in. And eventually what will happen is a judge will give them a life sentence because of the crimes they've committed in the past as well. But we don't have that, sadly, where we have a determination that they're considered unsafe. Once they've served their time, they're out.
Well, and a lot of places have a 3 strikes law. So you get, because rape is a crime of violence. So not to differentiate. But, if you have something where there are some really just, I don't know, there's to me, a lot of the child predators, it's a serious mental health issue, and there's a high percentage of those guys have been the victim of abuse themselves, which doesn't excuse it. But I'm like, hey, do whatever you got to do, but the minute these guys are out, and so it's like, I'm not qualified to assess. Some guy asked me for a recommendation, and I said, I'm only assessing your behavior on my unit with the stimuli on my unit. I don't know what happens. You drive by a grade school playground, what goes through your head, what things might be different. So it's like, I can only make my observations of your behavior. Is it satisfactory? Is it within policies and procedures? Have you followed the rules? Yeah. That's my part of it. I'm not a psychologist there to do that. But I guess in answer to your original question, about as often as they want. But I do hourly rounds. So if a guy's doing it, they pretty much wait until after I do a round because it's against the rules. They'll go to segregation. I don't have a problem
with consensual. 2 consenting adults, I realize within the realm of the rules. But Ian has a couple comments here. He said, pop a CS gas grenade in a shower, all your pores wide open like that, and you're not doing anything more than riding on the floor. His second comment is, according to Eddie Griffith, the pants around your ass fad started in prisons by prison queers advertising their willingness for anal. So, is there truth to that, guys?
It's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have all these kids out there with their pants around, they don't know where it came from. I find it hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's funny because they think it's all thug and it's hard ass. Yeah, your ass does get hard after it's pounded enough times, I suppose. Callus is built up or whatever. But
those are called hemorrhoids.
Speed bumps to them.
Oh, God.
Okay, so let's see here. So a lot of people complain that, prisoners, they have air conditioning, they have cable TV, they have all these luxuries that we don't have. So what are we looking at there? And also meals. What are they eating in your average prison?
Like school lunch.
Meal-wise, the service style, I suppose, is reminiscent of a school lunch in the sense that it's a refectory setup. That you have prisoners who, as we mentioned earlier, prisoners are encouraged to have jobs, earn extra cash, but also because obviously the routine of going and performing a job, for some, it helps them get through the time as well. It's part of an established routine for them. Food is actually pretty good. It's no different to the kind of stuff. There's this kind of. I don't know if it's the same for American prisons, but over here it's very much not what you would envisage. The whole slop of mashed potato kind of
pizza,
thing.
Hamburgers, fish sticks, that sort of thing.
Curries. Fish chips.
The
menu's not bad. One of the bigger differences, I suppose, in terms of what it's like for them is that there's a lot less communal area free association, if you like. Our guys are locked away in their cells at night and unlocked in the morning, and there are only certain times of the day when they are allowed to freely traverse in and out of their cells and go to, for example, the rec room. They don't have, again, this will vary slightly for open prisons, the lowest category in this country, but by and large, a majority of our prisoners do not have television in their cells. The only time they get to watch TV is during recreation time, and that's in a communal room. So they don't have, it is a misconception that they kind of live like kings, and they don't.
Dan?
Even here, I mean, it's a little different. It's, quite a bit softer, but I mean, the thing I guess people have to bear in mind, because there's a lot of things, like, on one hand, it's funny because the sergeant I work with, he started out at a maximum security prison, and there are a lot of generations and generations that have been there, and it's sort of like there's more of a, prison town mentality, because it's a small town built around this huge prison. And it was like the oldest prison, the first prison built in the state. It was built even before the boys' home that turned into another max where I worked. And so it's a lot of old school mentality there. And they said, the way stuff is now, we're one step away from giving these guys hand jobs before they go to bed, for Christ's sake, compared to how they envision the old school is, eat your slop and this and that, and it's us against you. And the thing that I guess that the shift in my mindset I had to make in order just to do the job and keep my own sanity was being there and away from anyone that they would rather be around, their family, friends, whoever. That's the punishment. Right. Basically society voted them off the island, so they're away for a while to think about, are they going to play nice when they come back? I mean, the punishment is being there. We're not there to punish them more unless their behavior is, doesn't allow them. Everything there, though, is potentially taken away. So everything there is a privilege, not a right, just about. You don't have a right to be in the day room. You don't have a right to watch TV. Your TV's too loud, I ask you to turn it down in a nice professional way, and you basically tell me to fuck off. I go, bring it down to the desk. You're on loss of electronics. I'll write a conduct report. It'll all be official, and it'll be documented why it was taken. I don't just have leverage to screw with people, so everyone has to kiss my ass, and I'm on some little power trip. Yeah. I'm expected to give respect, to get respect back. And in general, people are like, hey, there's nice Milner who walks around and tells a joke, and how's it going today, guys? And then there's, you really piss him off, or somebody's throwing down, and all of a sudden loud, and I'm picking up a guy, 6'4", 200 some pounds, and he's face down on the ground with his arm barred behind him. They're like, you don't want to meet that one. And he's like, that's not nice Milner. And when he raises his voice, he expects you to do what he says, or he's going to make you do it. So it's good once in a while to set that example, because then you can go around and just be nice.
But only when absolutely necessary.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You don't try to create problems, but sometimes it happens, and you have to let them know, hey, you're serious about not allowing any violence to happen on your unit. You're going to stop it now.
I got a curious question, okay? Because I am a little bit of a hard ass that believes that prison is supposed to be a place you never ever fucking want to go again. So, but listening to you describe prison, I was in the military, you were in the military. Do you think prison, especially in the medium security that you work in, which is tougher, your time in the military or being in a minimum security prison?
Well, if I'd say the living conditions are similar. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the time was a lot tougher in the military, but I also had a lot more freedom. It was the weekends where we would go and we would road trip down to Myrtle Beach or go down to Florida or, do whatever. But there were limitations on that. We were in a rapid deployment unit. So we would be where there were weekends where you couldn't be more than 2 hours away from base, because if you were recalled, you had to be back in formation. Good example, when we got deployed down to Panama, I actually did riot control in the military on 7,000 Cubans that were being held on Empire Range down in Panama. So I had like seen like these Cuban prisoners. Their prisons are not fun. Those guys do not want to go back, and it was like no matter what they had to do to not go there, they were desperate to not go back there, and they were trying to escape, and there were riots, and that was I was not a correctional officer. I was an infantry soldier. You become a threat, you're eliminated because we eliminate threats. You know, so that you're shot, you're blown up, you know, you're beaten down within an inch of your life. You have a shotgun in your mouth as they zip tie you, and then we continue to march forward. But like the thing of it is, you look at people that have like what I look at it is like your job as an officer in a prison. Your job is to make people who don't give a crap to the point of committing felonies, and you're trying to make them follow these little rules like, hey, your chair is not supposed to be facing 2 o'clock relative to the table you're sitting at. And then try to enforce all these. You have to kind of balance how much pressure you put on people. Because just like soldiers, there was a time when they would be all over your ass, but then there was off-duty time. Well, these guys are supervised round the clock. So there's really no off-duty time for an inmate. So in that regard, I would say it was easier to let off steam as a soldier. But on a daily basis, they put us through way more hell. And the living conditions, like really the housing units where I am is very similar to like the barracks. I mean, there was a group shower. We had rooms we shared with another guy. You know, the cells are slightly smaller than that. But as far as those comparisons, it's like day-to-day living, it's easier. But you have, as a reward for busting ass and working hard during the day and, you know, keeping your, you know, P's and Q's straight, you got all this time to go screw off when you weren't on duty. Where when you're in prison, you know, the thing is you have to balance. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to let you finish your thought, but I do have a comment here from Ian and Jamin. So go ahead and finish your thought there, and I'll get to these comments.
I guess the only thing is it's kind of a balance. You have people that, some of them are screwed up, have mental illnesses, treatment. You know, there's people that are whacked out of their gourds if they're not on the right medication. And that could have been a big part of why they committed their crime. So they do need to be supervised. But otherwise, you have a guy who chooses to just be a criminal and doesn't want to do the right thing. But you have these guys who don't give a crap, and you have to balance in order to modify their behavior without just scaring the crap out of them or beating them mercilessly. You have to have something to take away. It's like a kid, I'm going to take away your PlayStation. Well, we didn't have an Xbox growing up, so our parents couldn't take it away. Well, our parents whooped our ass if we screwed up. You know, but now, oh my God, it's unthinkable that they would have to go a week without their Xbox. You know, that's almost like, hey, I'll take my, 5-minute, butt whooping and be done with it,
Okay. Ian says, prison hooch. My second stepfather taught me how to make that vile stuff, but it'll get you drunk. Just a comment. You guys can comment back if you want to. But by the way, Jamin says, my brother was deployed in Panama. Those are the two comments. And I want to ask both of you, so being a prison guard, what's it do to your head? Because I realize you probably get into this, A, for a job, B, because you genuinely want to help somebody, and this is a way to help people. Locally, I know quite a few prison guards who are now actually police officers or sheriffs or deputies. And they all seem genuinely want to help people. What about you guys? Why'd you get into it, and what did it do to your head as you stay there for 2 years to 18 years?
Why did I get into it? Partly because it matched the skill set that I had from my previous job, and also I think to a certain extent the mentality. Mm-hmm. You take away the incarceration, there's a lot of similarities between supervising a large concert where you're trying to keep your eyes on hundreds. But
no, I agree. Yeah,
you're trying to keep your eye on large groups of people at one time. You're trying to pick out who's likely to be a potential problem. You're looking for clumpings of people within that crowd. Why are those not people hanging out together there? Why is that flow of bodies not moving there? Those kinds of skills lent themselves to that. It was never really, I want to be a prison officer. In fact, it was a massive joke when I joined up, although everybody knew I was on a fixed term contract, because obviously my father was at that point a principal officer, so that's like a wing head, and working his way towards governor. My mother was, my stepmother was a teacher who worked in the education department at the same prison. So when I joined up, you got all the jokes about "fuck me," they're trying to make it a family business. Yeah, I think as well there is an element of trying to help people, yes, and also not just the people that you're in charge of the care of on a daily basis, but you're trying to help the people that they're going to go back out and interact with as well.
Right. Society as a whole.
If your job in any way, even in a microscopic fashion, makes an iota of difference to the conduct of one of your prisoners when he then leaves prison and goes back out into society, you're not just helping him, you're helping everybody he's ever going to interact with from now on. So there is a chance there to make a difference, yeah.
What did it do to your head being in there for 2 years? Did you find your attitude towards people, life, society, any of that change?
No, I think you could probably ask that question of 10 different officers and get 10 different answers. It's like any situation where you're going to put a bunch of people with different mindsets into any high-pressure situation. Some deal with it better than others. Some deal with it by blocking it out. Some people are completely unfazed by it.
So what did it do to you?
The only thing I had to be conscious of that bothered me slightly, and this is where when you said about sex offenders earlier, and I said it's a curious coincidence again. The prison where I worked is 85% sex offenders. In fact, there is within the British prison system an option for prisoners to indicate that they are unwilling or more likely to be uncooperative if they are housed alongside other prisoners who have committed sexual offences. And so you have this phenomenon where you will find prisons like the one here on the island where there is a much higher than average percentage of sex offenders because they're the guys no one else wants to share with, basically. So they're put together. This does it does have some benefits. It means that they're all concentrated in one place where you can apply focused rehabilitation and training programs. Travis?
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, do they ship them to the island for that specific purpose, or is it just the people on the island?
Or do you think the fields of rape, as far as the eyes can see, on the island have an effect?
In the UK, and I don't know if this is different in the US, but the prison to which you're assigned is based purely on space and the category of prison and the crime. You're very rarely incarcerated in the prison that's in your hometown. So very few of the prisoners, certainly in high category prisons. In category C's, it can be different. When we had the 3 separate prisons before they were all amalgamated into one, Camp Hill, which was our category C prison, would have a lot of guys in who'd been imprisoned for relatively minor offences, motoring offences, fraud, that kind of stuff, who were from the island, who were in the final stages of their incarceration. So they would be sent here for the last few months and then released here back home, kind of thing. But in the higher levels of security, it's very unusual that you would have a lot of people from that particular area just because the prison happens to be there.
So what about you, Dan? What's this done to you?
Well, I think, one thing to, I guess, there's a thing I never got into it because I never really had any interest in being in law enforcement or anything, but like Kevin pointed out, my military service, I kind of had a skill set that has limited use, and I kind of got tired of being a broke college student and said, well, and it kind of, it appealed to a side of me that is protective. It's kind of the reason you volunteer to be a soldier. You're like, hey, not everybody can do that and handle it. If worse comes to worse, I can do that. And so you choose to do it, but it takes a toll over time. I mean, I think a short period of time, maybe not as much, but I've been noticing now since I've gotten over 10, 15 years, and it's now it's the awareness that you have to have, and that avoidance of complacency, now you misapply it. You're in public, you're at a restaurant, and it bugs me to no end that I'm not in the corner booth where my back's against the wall where I can see everyone in the room.
My
And
wife constantly moans at me when we go out in public places for doing what she calls periscoping, where I've been in the place 5 minutes, we've sat down, we've got a drink or something, and I'm at the table, and suddenly I'll do this, she'll catch me. I'm like checking the crowd without even realizing I'm doing it. I'm checking the crowd, I'm picking out
It's
guys that
situational
look like they might be
awareness.
trouble stuff.
I do the same thing, but maybe not to the extent you do or with the skill you do. But yeah, I tend to try to have my back where I can see most of the room if possible, and I think some people are just wired that way.
Come up behind you.
I think as far as your mental state when it comes to dealing with the job, I think a good word is that you need separation. You have to be able to separate. Yeah, you need to be able to separate your life outside of the job from the job, so that you don't take it home with you. And in the same way, also, you have to be kind of conscious not to bring shit from outside in. And by that, I mean, if you've had a really shitty day at home, you've got to be careful not to come in and be an asshole to the prisoners you have to work with just because you've had a shitty day, because it's not like getting in an argument with your mate in the pub where if you piss him off, he can walk out. These guys have got nowhere to go. You piss them off, they're going to be in your face for the rest of your day, making your life an absolute nightmare because you were a dick when you came in. So you've got to be consciously aware of that kind of stuff.
Well,
and
real
also,
quick,
sorry, just one quick thing I wanted to say. Going back to the point I was trying to make, which was about the fact that I was in this high concentration of sex offenders. One of the biggest issues I had in the first couple of months I was working there is that you need to be able to separate the guy you are talking to over coffee with the crime he's committed, which was to start with. Now, once I'd done it for a couple of years. Good night, Edwin. That became a lot easier. But to start with, and you're not always aware unless you ask around, but one of the things about my job was that because we were working in all the areas of the prison and we were safeguarding civilians, we had the option, and I'll tell you this very quickly just as an example of what I mean. We had the option to go and pull any prisoner's file from security and read up the details of their crime, how it was committed, what they were incarcerated for, so we knew who these people were. So if we encountered anybody who was giving the work party a sideways glance, or we thought they'd been eyeing up the tools, or you can go and have a check. What's this guy in for? What's his backstory? Now, we were based from the works department in our prison, and in the morning we had trustees, similar to what you were talking about earlier with the guys who can work their way up through good behavior, earn a single room. They're prisoners who are in for a long period of time, who've demonstrated consistent good behavior, willingness to stick by the rules, and so they're given the more trusted work positions and so on and so forth. So as a trustee in the works department, and he used to make us tea in the morning when we all came in and started shift. And he was the loveliest little guy in the world. 5 foot nothing, looked like greying, thinning hair. He was in his 60s. He looked like everybody's favourite granddad. He had the most amazing line in filthy jokes. He was always really respectful. Morning, Governor. How are you, Governor? Do you want a cup of tea, Governor? Really nice guy. Out of curiosity, just because I wanted to make sure I understood how the system worked, I was like, I'm curious. So I went and pulled his file. And from that day forward, for several weeks, I found it the most difficult thing in the world to do, to go in and continue to say good morning to the guy and interact with him in the same way that I had been, to the point where he picked up on it and actually asked me about it. And I won't tell you what he'd done, but it was utterly horrific and completely out of character for what you would have expected from this guy, especially given that he was in a trustee position. So you do kind of have to...
Did he vote Labour Party?
No, actually, sod it, I'll tell you, because it's not like that any details or who he was. No, he raped 2 9-year-old girls.
That would definitely put you off.
Yeah. So I think you have to put a certain amount of effort into not ignoring the offence, but not judging the person you're dealing with by it. If I was discussing that outside of work, I'd be horrified by it. But I've got to work alongside this guy every single day. So it's not that I'm not horrified by it, but I've got to kind of put that in a box and put it to one side so that I can deal with him as a human being. So if he is causing problems, my interaction and my reactions to him aren't coloured by how I feel about his offence.
Right.
So you just got to take what's in front of you that day and address that, because otherwise you lose your mind.
Yeah, you just got to deal with what's on the table in any given situation, yeah.
A real quick point. Does anybody else looking at Dan thinks he looks like Bob Newhart a little bit?
No.
No. But I have
He's
no
got that
idea who
straight
Bob
face.
Newhart
He's got
is.
anyhow. So Dan, did you have more to add to your how it's affected you or changed you for the better or worse?
Well, I think how it affects most people is the same way being a policeman affects people. There's a really high divorce rate. There's a high suicide rate because these things tear at you, and it's like I tell people, like when the new people come in and they're asking what it's really like, and I go, show up and be yourself. If something pisses you off, let someone know it pisses you off. You don't have to scream at them because. Go ahead. And yeah.
I just wanted to ask, because you said there's like a divorce rate with certain professions. How does this affect your families?
Well, if you
Family life.
if you describe like the job of an officer in a nutshell is to sit and look at everything going on in whatever area they're assigned to. They see something wrong, they identify it, and then they confront somebody about it. Now come home and do that with your wife. Point out all the things that are wrong and come home and say, now I'm confrontational and I'm dug in because I'm used to being manipulated, I'm used to being lied to, and I'm not moving an inch. So now I'm going to be completely stubborn. Well, it's just the nature of how you do it and how your view of people in general. Like when you look at people that you don't know now, like, it's like you can spot kind of a sleazy person like so much easier. Like, oh, it's just because the body language is the same. Yeah. Now, if I'm talking to someone, and some people are super polite, and one thing, they probably think I'm rude and I'm the worst listener, which maybe I am. Big family, we'd all kind of
like you, man.
But a lot of times when I'm talking to someone, I'll look over their shoulder and I'll just catch movement out of the corner of my eye. And it's not because I can't pay attention to one thing. I can hyper focus, but I'm so used to being on this like one housing unit I've spent 13 years working on, and it was me and the sergeant. I'm the officer and he's the sergeant, and I watch one half of the unit over his shoulder as we talk, and he watches half the unit over my shoulder as we sit there and pass the time. So now when I'm talking to somebody, talking to somebody, they're expecting eye contact and this active listening, and I'm like, it's not in me anymore. I'm just not. Whenever I'm somewhere, I feel like if I know what's going on and can identify it early enough, I can be useful and I'm a good guy to have around in a bad situation. But if I'm unaware, like I hate concerts and things where there's big masses of people, and especially, it's, probably kind of funny, but just being short, hey, if I can't see two people away from me, I have no idea. There could be a guy, about to open up with a machine gun, and you don't even know. I mean, so it's like I don't like being in situations where my view is limited or where it's really confined, because you always have to be aware, okay, if 10 guys come for me right now, where's my exit? You have to do these little scenarios, because it's not going to happen every day, but it may happen once. And once not being aware of your situation is all it takes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to shift a little bit. A real quick question, though. So in the movies, whenever they release a prisoner, they open the fucking gate and he stands outside and Buddy picks him up in a car. How's a release actually work? Once all the papers are done, they're outside. Do you like give them a ride somewhere, or does somebody
push them out the gate?
There's normally in this country a sort of intermediary phase, like specialist hostels, where they help them for a few weeks. First of all, I mean, if they've got nowhere to go, if they've got family and a home and everything waiting for them, they literally will be there for 2 or 3 days till they finalise the process, the paperwork, and then off they go. Okay. For some of the guys, especially guys who've been in for a long time, it can be awkward readjusting to life outside, and so quite often they'll be offered the opportunity to go to one of these facilities where they can stay there. It's cheapish rent, and there's continuing support and training and counsellors on hand to help them with adjustment to outside life. But it can sometimes be as simple as, they're out, go to one of these places, they're there 2 days as a temporary measure while everyone's like, okay, you still remember how to go to the shop and buy a pint of milk, fuck off.
How about Ed? Yes, Ed?
Question just jumped in my head. Listen to you, Kevin, in this country. Here, state to state to state, things might be different from one prison to the other. Is the entire prison system in England run by the
Home Office?
Okay.
Yeah, it's all controlled by central government. Even the private prisons are overseen by the Home Office. So the standards,
Good
the
night,
methods
Bob.
of systems they're used are universal across every
Hi,
prison.
Bob.
Hi, Bob.
And what don't
What?
I can't read that. Did Jim say you don't to be hostile about it?
You don't have to be hostile about it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay, so Dan, what about here in the States? How do we do it? So essentially the same thing, or is it different?
I think it's kind of addressed on a case by case basis. They have like they've been trying to improve what they call it like the re-entry process. You're re-entering society. So they actually have a social worker who's assigned to be the re-entry
Liaison.
programming coordinator, whatever, some fancy title, but basically help these guys transition. And there are social workers within the prison, and there's an office in each of our housing units for social workers that they deal with. So if you have a guy who has nowhere to go, he'll go to like a halfway house, a group living situation where there's some supervision. But that's also, they do try in our state to an extent, unless you're seriously misbehaving, they will try to keep you in an area where you can get visits from your family or friends or whatever, which
Reconnect you with your circle.
it's kind of 6 in one and half dozen in the other, because sometimes what they call it maintaining community relations, but in a lot of cases, sometimes it's the community that got the guy in the trouble in the first place. I mean, I'm not saying the law-abiding people living in his neighborhood, but the people that he associated with, and the more he stays in, the more he stays in contact with those people, and compares the easy money of what he was doing before, in the case of a guy who's in there, for selling drugs or something like that,
Right.
because that's the big politicized thing in this country. Like, some of these states are looking at legalizing marijuana. Well, that's going to take a lot of people out of the prison system. And a lot of people can make money off of this, and the government can tax it. They can put more money into rehab programs. I mean, I'm not saying pro or against, pro or con
Right.
on that, but it'll change the landscape of the prisons. And so when you're looking at that in relation to like community relations, you have a guy who has nowhere to go. Okay, well, he's got a parole officer assigned to him if he's on paper, which means he still has some time on probation to do. If he doesn't have any probation and he's absolutely released, they still want to make sure he has somewhere to go, so they will find a place for him to stay, until he can find a job or whatever.
Now for that shift I was talking about. By the way, Jamin, I'm not sure who was hostile about something.
I think he was talking about what we were saying earlier about you taking your attitude into work with you.
Okay.
Play on words.
So here's what I want to know now. Let's aim for funny stories, heartwarming stories, ways you've made a difference or ways somebody has made a difference for you. Yes, Ed?
I got one more question. Because Kevin said something earlier about sex offenders. Another prisoner can say, I don't want to be near him, blah, blah, blah. Dan, is there a type of honor among thieves here? Is there a crime where the other prisoners will say, oh no, that fucker committed that crime, we don't want anything to do with him, and he becomes the dirt of the block or whatever?
Well, I think in most cases, the sex offender and the child predator is the pond scum of the inmate population. It's the very same thing, but in most places, I don't think they segregate them. And that's the biggest complaint of more hard-ass traditional convicts in our prison, is that, well, they got all these freaking baby rapers and sex offenders around here, and this place is like fucking Disneyland because all these little snitches, and it's kind of like they're not respected as like a criminal that kind of maintains a difference. They're like, hey, no matter how cool a guard is, they're still a guard. At the end of the day, they're kind of an asshole. They're part of the system that's standing on my neck. So there's kind of the old school con mentality, and there's old school guard mentality. That's like, there's this big, huge separation. And But I think in most states, sex offenders are preyed upon a lot more, and that's where the federal government has stepped in and said, "Hey, we want this Prison Rape Elimination Act." I used to have their offense, how much time they're doing, all that stuff was right on their face card. I would pull a card, and I could put warnings on the back of it so we could keep track on the unit. Well, did the first shift officer warn this guy about not going to someone else's doorway without permission? Then if he warned him this morning and he wrote it on the card, I'm writing him a conduct report, and he's on, loss of day room, so he can't come out of his room during the day room hours for the next week. So then, on there, they used to have their crime, like our social worker used to keep all of the guys' files in her office. I never chose to do it, but at that time, if you really wanted to, you could go and read their entire history, their entire file. You'd know every crime they've been caught. Mm-hmm. They've been caught doing.
That's the exact situation I was in. Yeah, you could, when you pulled it, I mean, it would start with the most recent offence, but it would also include details of every crime they'd committed since they came into the system on record. Yeah.
So now you can go and you can see the offence itself. There's a computer system, CCAP. You can go in and find it. But you're breaking your work rules if you don't have a work-related need to know. Like, is this guy an escape risk? Am I going to be issuing him Class A tools working in maintenance? If I don't have a work-related need to know, then I should stay out of it. And they don't put the offenses on the face cards or anything anymore because they want less of that knowledge even floating around because it doesn't help anyone just be neutral.
They don't want to give you an excuse.
Because really, if you're not in programming or any kind of counseling, it's none of your real business anyway. Just address the behavior in front of you, be professional, be respectful, and you get respect. And you know what? No one's perfect. You have good days, bad days. But you have to allow them to have a good day or a bad day unless it crosses a line too, So
and you do see that same kind of, I don't know how to describe it, categorization of seriousness of crimes amongst prisoners, even in a prison population where 85% of them are there for sex crimes. That some sex crimes are worse than others, and invariably 99 times out of 100, somebody who is in prison for raping a woman in her 20s will very much look down on a guy who's in for raping a 10-year-old boy. They see, rightly or wrongly, within the hierarchical sort of social system, they will see that prisoner as significantly lower down the pecking order than themselves, even though to somebody outside the prison walls, there's virtually little, there's no difference in terms of the seriousness of those two crimes.
So do you guys have any happy stories? Whether it's funny or whether it's you've made a difference or one of the co-workers, prisoners influenced your world in a positive way?
I don't know if I'd say I've got any positive stories. I mean, it's like any work environment. You're going to have those little moments of light-hearted levity, silly little things, jokes being cracked, comical situations. You're always going to get those in any situation where you've got a large number of human beings cooped up with each other, that sort of barrack mentality, But I was only in for a short period of time, so maybe that's a factor as well. But I've not really got a whole load of stories where I'd come away and go, that was a really positive thing that happened there that had ended up with this great outcome. But on the flip side of that, I've got very few horror stories either. And that's not a bad thing, because horror stories can be pretty horrible.
Well, Dan, think of anything?
It's funny because Heidi is no longer working in there anymore. She's actually with the DMV. So on a daily basis, she has
one to the other.
Yeah, she has people come in and like compliment how she does her job. And some older gentleman came in and he's like, "You should give lessons on how to be nice." And so she likes that. She gets. But then I told her, I said, I've had inmates kind of. This one guy, he got transferred to a minimum recently, and it was like a high-profile murder case just from a few miles away years ago, where they threw a guy's body was thrown into a pulping vat at a paper mill, and initially I think over some kind of a union dispute. Like he was the guy was telling on guys that had stole some company property, and he was.
It was a very 1930s mobster situation there.
Yeah, but it was 1990s,
right.
Wisconsin. Well, and this guy had been, convicted, and he'd been down for a long time, and he'd spent like at least 10 of those years on my unit, and he's like, I just wanted to say thank you for how you do your job, And I'm like, okay, but the thing of it is, you still live here, so I can't. It's like, thanks for pointing that out, but I can only say so much about it. But the other story that I had was there's the guy that I named Johnny Appleseed. Which kind of goes along with the Prison Rape Elimination Act, but
it sounds like it would.
Because it's kind of interesting now. Like if I chose to, because like at night after right when the day rooms are closing for the night, there's not a lot going on. So we read the mail before it goes out, make sure they're not, hey, I want you to stab this guy, at this other prison, and you read the inmate to inmate mail to make sure there's nothing, no laws being broken.
They have other inmate. Are they like buddies, or is there a pen pal system?
Well, there is a pen pal system. Like a lot of guys will write to a female in the female prison or a dude. There's transsexuals, and it's a can of worms how they're dealing with all of that stuff. There's some dude, and his legal name is Jennifer, and you're not supposed to. I mean, I work in a men's prison, so I'll say sir. It's like, because it's the best thing. Instead of saying fuck you, you just say sir. You need to stop doing that, sir. But anything with sir or please before or after it sounds a little less. You can kind of take the edge off. If you feel like you're kind of losing it a little bit, you throw a please or a sir in there, and then they can't say that you were overtly being rude about it or whatever. So there's a lot of like kind of weird stuff going on now with some of the gender identity, political correctness type things. We're way ahead of our time because we have one staff bathroom in our unit, and it's just one toilet, one sink. So you go in there, and it's gender neutral. Our bathroom is gender neutral.
That's just radical. Anybody can be in the same toilet? Craziness.
Yeah, it's revolutionary, really. But
yeah, we even have separate male-female bathrooms here at my house. Fuck that.
I'm just nice, so I put the seat down. I do twice as much. Yeah, I have to lift it up when I go, and then down when I'm done, instead, so they don't have to touch it.
I put the lid down, and I get pissy when anybody else doesn't, because I don't want my cat to feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we keep the door closed. Much.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's the guy Johnny Appleseed, who the sergeant on the housing unit he lived on, his nickname was Satan. And this guy is like, and he introduced himself to me as, "Hi, I'm Satan," because we actually rented a place and lived near him. And I'm like, "You're what?"
You go much?
And he's like, "Oh, I just thought that was my nickname at work." He goes, "I work third shift over by you." I'm like, "Oh, okay." When I first met him, well, so he's the guy that Johnny Appleseed comes up to one night at the desk, and he says, "Sarge, I'm in so much pain." He goes,
"So it was Sergeant Satan."
Yeah, Sergeant Satan.
Like a comic book hero.
Yeah. It'd be like, Sergeant Slaughter. He's Sergeant Satan.
Yeah. He hangs out with Ghost Rider and Nightwing.
And Johnny Appleseed now. So he comes out, this guy comes out, and he says, "I passed out in the shower, and somebody shoved an apple up my ass."
Oh, my God.
And now it's bleeding, and it's extremely painful, and I don't know what to do. And now, just to give you a little background on Sergeant Satan, this guy will hang out at like a gas station before work, and the sergeant that I worked with is a really good guy, and he would see him in there, and this guy was the worst. He cussed constantly, like a blue flame just coming out of his mouth. And there's some woman's walking up covering her 3-year-old's ears, and he's like, "That fucking goddamn talking shit." That's the way he talked, and now Johnny Appleseed has to tell him that he has a serious medical issue, that somebody put an apple up his ass while he passed out in the shower.
Bob is gone, so I need to make up the slack here. Find somebody to eat it out.
Well, what ended up happening, I mean, my thoughts were, when I first heard this, I'm like, first of all right, so Johnny Appleseed comes up to you and somebody just starts laughing and like they like nose barf their soda or whatever, and then they go, oh, Johnny Appleseed, that's perfect. And they're like, I said, first of all, how does he know it's an apple? You have a large foreign object. You have a large, you're supposedly unconscious when this happens, and you trust yourself to correctly identify what kind of, not only is you, not even categorically, you got it narrowed down to fruit. You're doing pretty good, unless you played like identify the foreign object in your ass on a regular basis.
Or one already with like bites out of it.
No, intact. Otherwise intact. Full.
Did he say if it was a Fuji or a Gala or a Granny Smith?
It was a Granny Smith.
Good night, Dev Noel.
But I don't think he identified this when he reported to the sergeant that he had been. He was the victim of a drive-by fruiting or whatever had happened. So now he has to go out to the hospital because they got to like do something with this. He's bleeding. It's not a good thing.
They got to core it or something.
So now I'm thinking, what do they just like cut the core out and then it collapses and then So my buddy who's a big, probably bigger goofball than I am, he goes on this medical trip, and so he's describing to me the doctor is kind of making fun of this guy, and he puts him in stirrups and treats it like childbirth. He's like, oh, it's starting to crown, and then when he pulls it, he gets these calipers and he pulls this intact Granny Smith apple out of this guy's ass. And he's like, congratulations, you're the proud father of a Granny Smith apple.
Wow. How big was it? Like a little one, like fresh off the tree, or was it like a big one you buy?
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. They give out, that's like one of the biggest fruits that they even get served here intact. It's like, yeah, it was. So he's telling me, he's like, and it wasn't like a little Granny's big, that was a full one. Like the one they make caramel apples out of because they're huge. But, so I'm thinking, first of all, well, look at that. He correctly identified the object that was placed in his ass. I'm like, well, first of all, let's stop saying somebody else did it, because if you know exactly what it was, because you did it.
See, I was still totally on that there was somebody else involved. He was just conscious and aware. I didn't even jump to the conclusion that this was a self-inflicted appling.
Yeah, so Mr. Applebottom, Johnny Appleseed, he is now the proud father of a little, Granny Smith apple. And so, he goes for a checkup because there were stitches involved and stuff. They had to repair some damage. So now he goes for a checkup a few days later, and I'm in the tower when they come back. So my friend who told me about the birthing of the Granny Smith, he's in the car, and this other sergeant who's like the only person about as goofy as him and I, and they pull up to the thing, and so I'm like, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order? And they're like, I'd like a, so I know who's out on this trip because we get a list and everything. So now they come back on this, and so I said, well, could I interest you in one of our healthy choices, such as Granny Smith apple slices? And like, available with caramel dip. And then my buddy's,
Oh.
So now the inmate used to live on my housing unit for years and years, and he's in the back seat. I hear him, oh my God, is that Milner? And Sarge's like, pipe down back there. So yeah, that was Johnny Appleseed. So I was joking about it over the intercom when they pull up to the tower to come back into the institution, and dude recognized my voice in the back seat, and he's like, I bet you he's the one that said Johnny Appleseed. Everyone's calling me Johnny Appleseed. So, like, if you're going to be planting apples, your ass is not the best place. So
that'd be an ultimate road apple right there.
Take one lesson away from tonight's show. That should be it.
Apple bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was in for some pretty horrific sex crimes. But he punished himself.
Yeah, I'll say.
Nobody else came along. Oh well.
I'm surprised you didn't offer him a hot apple pie.
No, I did say sliced, though. I said, we did Granny Smith apples sliced.
That would be easier.
So, how is he?
Oh, he's still around.
Any more fruit issues?
I don't think he's had any of those kind of issues. He's got a lot of issues. So don't get me wrong.
At least if he did like strawberries, it wouldn't be as much of a jam.
Hide the grapes.
Surely it'd be more of a jam.
Yeah, more of a jam. Well, what do they say? What's the difference between jam and jelly? You can't
What?
jelly. You can't jelly an apple up your ass.
Wow.
But but this guy, like, he had tics and stuff. Like, he used to do this thing I used to call the Crazy Ivan. Like, you see Hunt for the Red October?
Mm-hmm.
They called it a Crazy Ivan, where they do a 90-degree turn once every 30 minutes to see if anyone was following in their wake. Well, this guy'd be walking along, and all of a sudden he'd just go and do this thing with his head, and it happened, like, every couple of minutes. So he would just do this Crazy Ivan all the time. And I'm like, so he's got all these tics, and he's, like, not right upstairs. And then I'm like, and now you're Johnny Appleseed.
Ian says we need a comic, as in a comic book, about the adventures of Sergeant Satan and Johnny Appleseed. It's
That
like
would
him and his
be-
sidekick.
A very short but funny, intensely funny graphic novel.
I wish I could draw.
The world's first ever extremely graphic novel.
Extremely graphic.
Okay, so we got 20 minutes left. Everybody good on the topic? Shall we sit and bullshit and relax? Because I don't want to send you guys away with this clump of crap that you had to divulge here to us. And thank you
It's fine.
for all the info. Because, yeah, seriously, I was very surprised how little and how inaccurate the information I have.
Yeah, I've seen
Was.
all the seasons of Oz. It sounds nothing like that.
And
The thing is that most people outside of the prison services are like movie makers. You can take a movie maker into a prison when it's not running, or when it's, quiet times when they're on lockdown or whatever, and show them what a building looks like. But unless you've actually spent days, weeks, months in that environment, it's not an easy environment to try and translate to someone who's not experienced it.
So
It can be quite
what's
difficult
the
if I'm
best
just trying
movie
to.
or TV series?
Oh wow! For
Most accurate.
the British prison service.
Benny Hill, right?
Well, no, maybe not quite so bang up to date now, but actually, if you want a view of what prisons in the 70s and 80s were like in the UK, then the old Ronnie Barker comedy series Porridge.
Interesting. I haven't seen it. Never even heard of it. But who is it? Is it Ian that watches the Brit comedies?
The only prison, with listening to you guys talk and everything, the only prison movie I've seen that's close to what you guys are talking about is Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, definitely not the whole or the Longest Yard. Not that one.
Not that.
Well, it's
And
more
definitely
dramatic.
not Cool Hand Luke.
It's always more dramatic to have like the maximum security or the worst of the worst of the worst places, like Alcatraz, or working the chain gang down in Louisiana and different places like that. I mean, sitting there and go, okay, really? Because I had a guy and he was like the exact opposite. They have like popcorn night. They save the aluminum cans that the inmates, which they get aluminum cans, which they didn't at a max, but they can, and they put the cans in a collection thing, and the warden saves it up and cashes in the cans because they're from inmate donations, and then they send popcorn down to the units, and they have these huge poppers, and every inmate gets a free bag of popcorn on that Saturday.
What did you even say, Ed?
Popcorn night.
That was funny, but now I think I'm going to pass on the apple pie I was about to eat. I'm
The
sorry.
apple passed. Why not you?
Hold the caramel.
Okay, so they
Or the
all get a
whipped
free bag of
cream.
popcorn. That's actually kind of cool.
Well, so now I have this inmate, and he's getting ready to get out, and it was just the irony of it struck me one day. The guy comes up, and he's complaining because his said, my side gets their popcorn last, and they always get the popcorn last, and it's not fair. And I said, okay. I said, you're going to get out in 2 weeks, right? I said, I'm just picturing this. And all your buddies are going to ask you what prison is like, and you're going to tell them what a badass you are and how you had to stab your way to and from the bathroom and all this. I said, and you're standing in front of me tearing up over you have to go last for popcorn night? I'm like, you're getting free popcorn in prison, man. And it's like, I just want to record this and play this for every guy you're going to try to impress and tell them how you did hard time.
So Ian asks, doesn't California have all the Supermaxes?
I don't know. We had one at least. Now they call it Secure Program Facility.
You know, this whole name change thing, not just for prisons, but for anything.
And anyone.
And that they change it every, for example, as a reporter, I'll do stories on people who are mentally challenged or handicapped or whatever. And they change what they call them. Like every 5 to 7 years, there's a new word for it. And the last word is no longer used. It's actually offensive at this point.
What?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Which one's offensive?
Well, the R word. Can't say the R word.
Right, that we grew up, and it was,
Right.
yo, this kid's mentally retarded. Oh my God, what a,
Right.
But see, if you don't watch TV and don't follow fads like me, because one, I don't want to see people committing crimes and all the horrible stuff, and the latest implant that one of the Kardashians got or whatever, and all the crap that gets put on TV now. It's just the world's better off with me not seeing it.
Do you have Netflix?
Yeah, we do.
Have
You
you
can
watched?
see it all.
Have you watched Punisher?
Mm-mm.
I was curious about your take on the PTSD topic.
Ah.
That's addressed heavily in
That'll
the
be
series.
another show.
Yeah. Okay. Go on with your.
Oh,
what were you
but what was I saying?
TV.
So like we're talking about less political correctness because they change the names of things and it doesn't change what they are.
It doesn't
Like
change what it is. It's still the same
secure program facility is still the Supermax.
Well,
Right.
Ed
And
lived through it.
Our
where,
segregation is now called restrictive housing unit, so they call it RHU. I said it's still seg. They still don't leave their cells. Come on.
Well, we've discussed it. I don't know, hundreds of times with Ed. Where you were colored, you were Negro, you were black, you were African American, still black.
I'm confused.
He's confused.
Where's Bob? He could explain this.
The thing of it is, it's kind of weird because I like Morgan Freeman's take on it. I know this guy named Morgan. When someone can look at me and just see a guy named Morgan and not have to describe what may be different between you and I, then equality's been reached. And I just look over and say, hey, it's Ed, or okay, how come there's no category in front of my name? It's not. Is it short Dan? Am I being discriminated against because
you know
I'm
what
short?
there was till you shaved off the fucking mutton chops.
Yeah, see, I had something distinctive, but
Yeah, no, but absolutely. When I'm described, they're like the guy with the mustache, which in this case, that's perfectly acceptable. Like when I was introducing you around the show, I'm like, well, shit, my Skype has everybody in a different order than your Skype has them. Obviously, you'll know who Andrea is, but I can't point and go, that's Ed, that's Kevin. I'm like, well, fuck, I've got to differentiate somehow. Black guy, Brit.
so right away he called Ed token, and then I knew.
No, Ed's American. The Brit's the token form.
Oh, he's the
I'm the
token. Oh,
token.
he's the
I'm the
foreigner.
token minority.
We got a token
Well,
woman.
no, but wasn't it the name of the black kid on
South Park. Yeah.
token? I'm like, that's
hold on. We got an Ian comment here. Now PTSD is called PTSS, post-traumatic stress syndrome. I remember when we changed the
Cattle cars.
Thank you. We used to transport to and from field to silver bullets. Yeah, it's.
Oh my god!
If you're looking
I
to
can't
be a-
keep up.
I know I can't either. Yeah, I'm gonna
Too
be
old for
totally.
this.
We've hit that age, guys, where we're like,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm gonna say the wrong thing because I don't. feel
What
like
gets me
looking at it.
today, though, is that we talk about let's not label people, but we're creating new labels
More labels.
Mm.
for different people. New
Yeah,
labels
you're still
for different.
When you get the
just
label
changing the
wrong.
label, yeah.
Right. So
Where's my label maker?
Well, I think
You're white,
the,
you can't be a
the
label
big
maker.
thing is that goes along with all the political correctness is that you're not supposed to make qualitative judgments. If there's something that you're offended by or you don't believe in, you're not supposed to take a stand and believe anything strongly enough.
no,
Because heaven forbid you might offend somebody.
you'll offend somebody.
Well, but it's okay for some, say for the most conservative person in the world to walk around offended by everything that they see. But
You know that.
if there's anything that you choose, how do you find a way to describe things when you don't keep up with the latest terminology. Like, I thought it was like kind of, my parents were behind the times, and they probably said, my dad graduated high school in 1951. He was a paratrooper. When he was in the Army, I'm sure the term black was colored at that time. Probably. And it's like, and there were signs, and it never really hit me, but being in Georgia at that time was very different from when I was in Georgia in 1992, because all of a sudden they're somewhere, and I'm like, wow, so if their buddy from their squad, Joe, if they went to this place, they couldn't even sit together. Mm-hmm. Wow. And then it kind of hits home for you, like how hurtful that is. But if you haven't really lived that situation, but see, my parents, and that was the accepted term that was used by everyone. Yeah. And if you had a TV interview, then a person would describe themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I was 18, and I was in Mississippi visiting my aunt for a month or so. And I'm walking down the street in, very rural Mississippi. And there's a black guy walking towards me, middle-aged black guy, and I think anything of it because I grew up in South Florida in a very mixed community. And the guy crossed the street, and I thought nothing of it, till I got to where I'm going, and I turned around to look, and he was crossing back. This middle-aged black guy crossed the fucking street to get out of the way of a 5'6", 105-pound white kid.
He was afraid he was going to knock you over.
It could be. And that was a big wake-up call for me, where I just, because it wasn't in my perception to think that should ever happen. Hey, Cool Hand's back. Welcome back, Fabian.
Cool.
Yeah. It's we usually use the real names, but sometimes when you're reading off the screen. But yeah, it's
well, it's just too much work to keep up with terminology. It's like there's no way there's no way I can keep up, especially with my avoidance of
purposeful ignorance.
Yeah, basically, if I can isolate myself from social media and television and all the other things that are would like to turn you into a little politically correct drone, that's what I'm doing. It's like, I'll sit here and play guitar, I'll play a video game and not interact with anyone except my brother, and and go to work and do my thing and go to the store and deal with individuals. But mass media of any kind, I'm happier the less I see of any of it. So I'm bound to be way behind the times on terminology and stuff. So it's like, does that make me the most hateful, offensive person walking the street? No,
Yes.
Well,
jerk.
And I respect your opinion on that.
I think I'm more likely to be offended by somebody using a new PC phrase for something than I am somebody using an outdated phrase that's now considered offensive.
Same here.
Well, it's all the tone behind it and the meaning behind it and the intent behind it.
Yeah.
It's
because on the one end of the spectrum, you have the people that, oh my God, I'm the best person ever because I keep up with the latest terminology that,
Ian says we need weekly memos.
Parent-tested, child-approved, whatever. I'm offense-free. Is that what they walk around like? The attitude that they're so much better than you because they know the latest little, stupid terminology. And I'm like, you know what? This is this. They're called synonyms. Now, if you have a question of what someone's intent is, and you think they're being a, racist, sexist, whatever,
douchebag.
Yeah, flat out ask them. See, what do you mean by that?
Say, you a douchebag?
Yeah. Are you
which, by the way, I think we should stop.
Are you made of vinegar and water?
Excuse me, Travis?
You should call people an enema rather than a douche.
Yeah, enema
bag.
Travis, did you just assume the sexuality of my bag?
No, just the use of. Yeah, so I think we need to switch it to enema sack instead of douchebag because the enema sack cleans the shit, goes in the asshole, it all fits
Frankly,
better.
It's a much better insult.
So I'm not allowed to use douche because I'm a dude?
You can use douche all you want. Clean out your nasal passages, man, whatever.
I mix it up with my mouthwash, that's why.
It's that lovely salted vinegar taste. With
Now I'm craving some potato chips.
Wow.
You should try paprika Pringles. They're great.
But you can't get them in this country.
Yeah, I joke with kids now. I said, you know what? When I was a kid, potatoes came in one flavor: potato chips.
Sorry.
We didn't have cheddar, this, that. It was potato and salt.
Potato. Yep.
But they were just coming out with barbecue and sour cream and onion, and we were fucking amazed.
Yeah, we were like, yes. This is like his
Tortilla
name.
chips had Doritos, which was fucking, that was selection.
Doritos
Yep, you're like,
chips.
Lunar landing, kiss my ass. Barbecue potato chips. You know? That was more relevant to our lives as kids. You know, we're like, barbecue chips. This is awesome.
I worked in a Mexican restaurant, and on one of the menu items, it said, this comes with Doritos, which is the Mexican word for tortilla chips. And they're like, these aren't Doritos. These are, and I'm like, no.
Doritos means chips because they named them chips.
Notice it's a lowercase d, not a capital with a TM next to it. Yeah. Good time.
Well, it's like we have that up here, like Kleenex. I don't know if you say Kleenex or you say facial tissues.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody says Kleenex.
We say snot rag.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
I say sleeve.
I say portable sleeve. Disposable sleeves.
Okay, we need a closing toast. We're going to wrap this up.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, here's to catching up with Dan, but also here's to sharing knowledge and dispelling a little bit of ignorance with a laugh.
I'd drink to that any day. Cheers.
I'm out.
Now, for everybody viewing or watching this afterwards, we have next week's show, which I believe is Michael Thompson versus Michael Thompson.
Yep.
Where we have two very
Celebrity
different
death.
gentlemen named Michael Thompson who will be on, and we're going to just have a good conversation with them.
Also, click like, subscribe, comment, and on Twitch, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free with your Amazon Prime account. Also, if you have a teen that would like to subscribe to our show, they can do that using your account
And we will educate them.
Mm.
for no extra cost.
Yeah, we might not know the latest word, but we'll teach them what's
That
not
Next
word.
away from one show with a whole load of new words.
Well, sometimes
That's
the best
right.
example is a bad example.
Mm.
Well, I found out on my Amazon account, I can let my teen child use my account to subscribe on Twitch. So
By the way, Fabian, they're great. If you haven't tried them, check them out. They have those in Greenland.
I know
Yeah,
everywhere but here.
basically, once you hit the water and head east, there they are. Dan, great catching up, man. Thank you for coming
Good
on.
talking to you.
It was very educational.
We've had a few guests unable to make it. We were actually dropping money to see if you were going to show up or not. So you win.
Wants money.
Yeah, well, other than the technology factor, I thought, because I saw the icon on our regular computer, and so I thought, oh yeah, I'm good to go. It's all, but I'm like, wait, I don't have an account on there. I've never used it in my life. I'm like, oh, crap. And then Travis texts me, and I'm like, I'm on my way to the store getting the stuff that I was eating, that you saw me eating, and like, I'm getting bagels and eggs, and also I'm like, oh man, I didn't test out the Skype yet.
That's why we
I'm like
went
90
out.
minutes. I'm like Eastern time. Okay.
That's why we have an hour before.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, now we're going to set up a raid. I think we're just going to raid Bob Ross. I know
We're
he's
gonna
on.
raid Bob Ross. Woo!
Yeah.
Good night,
Well, hold on a
Robin. Love you, baby.
Oh, good night,
Night,
Robin.
Robin. Night, everybody.
Yeah, Ian, Jamin, everybody else who's still around, Fabian,
Thanks for
Robin, thanks for
joining.
joining. Appreciate you
Yeah,
hanging.
thanks for hanging out, guys.
Durr. Where's my things? There we go. I can't say durr, can I?
No, that's offensive.
I'm a bad man.
That might offend stupid people because they're often
Thanks,
tongue-tied.
Ian. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ian. And Ian, we will chit-chat more about your mug. You can let us know how that's turning out for you and catch you. Again, appreciate you commenting on YouTube. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tune in for more fun, intelligent, educational, stupid-ass stuff.
Is that what we are?
Wait, hold on. I can't go to Bob Ross yet. Fabian said, I got called a porch monkey today. Okay, Fabian, what is your ethnic background.
What does porch monkey mean to you?
Yeah. I know what it means here in the U.S. I don't know if it applies to you in this case. We'll have to find out. What's that?
Bama.
It could be. Well, he's in Greenland, so.
Yeah, I know.
What, they get some redneck stuck in Greenland?
Yeah, the colorblind ones.
I'm curious, where did that term even come from? Is that like the little like fisher things, little black dudes holding fishing poles that would sit on someone's porch? Where did that term come from? I mean, seriously, I'm like, sometimes some of the stuff.
Well, supposedly it goes way back to the day during slavery. One of the reasons for the justification of slavery is that they would say that blacks from Africa were closer to apes than white men were. White men had evolved beyond blacks from Africa because they were closer to apes, henceforth porch monkey.
Oh, that's worse. Worse than what I was even thinking then.
Yeah,
well, which I think is kind of funny now that they've because I've been saying it for a long time, but I'm like, I said, you know
what?
No. I've been saying for a long time like that. I didn't think that Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons like necessarily lived at different times, and now they found
it's been proven.
Neanderthal DNA, and I'm like, you know what? You look at someone with like giantism with their pronounced brows and things like that. I said there is like Neanderthal DNA in all modern humans because you see it come out in different things, and it's like. But you'd be laughed out of a classroom. Your professor would kick you out of class if you brought this up. And you're like, once they map the human genome, they'll be able to say yes or no.
And they're saying yes now.
And now they've said yes on that, which I think is kind of ironic, and that kind of throws a lot of stuff in the face of people like that who use the evolutionary theory of.
Enjoy Bob Ross. We'll catch you next week. Okay. Now, we have just switched over to the other channel. Ed, go ahead and end the stream there.
We can still talk, though.
Yeah. We just had to switch over because the show is done and they can go watch something else now. So, and I think there's more to that, but whatever. Good enough.
Neanderthals and heads and us, and we're all monkeys.
That flew by.
It did.
And we stuck on topic because, I just like learning the new stuff. And Dan, seriously, I don't know how you socialize, but you're always welcome to drop a message or a phone call and say hello.
Sorry.
And if you enjoyed being on the show, usually it's a lot more cut up than this. We misbehave a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. I mean, you could even go, Travis. Next show you have that's something that's absolutely ridiculous. Let me know 4 weeks ahead of time, and I'll get the night off.
We have others.
We only have 2 or 3 more set up.
Oh, we need to.
And we're going to do a planning session.
Okay. I'll have to look at your schedule and start checking them out more often.
Well, it's every Monday, just like
11,
this.
Or whenever you want to watch YouTube.
Oh, okay. Because my schedule, my days off rotate.
Okay.
So this is my regular day off, and I go back tomorrow night, and then next week I have Monday and Tuesday, so I'll have to see what you're doing next Monday.
Next Monday is Michael Thompson versus Michael Thompson. We'll have 2 other guests on.
We have 2 guys named with the same name.
But here's what I can do, because I have to contact them this week and make sure they're still coming on. If one or both of them bail, I'll drop you a message going, we're doing a random fucking topic. You want to come play?
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you let me know a day ahead of time, I'll let you know what's happening.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
We'll see the one on this weekend, I think.
And we don't invite everybody back?
No.
Yeah. Totally true.
Yeah.
Not even me. I'll just keep showing up, man.
Yeah. It's not a standard offer.
Yeah,
well, it's one of those things like when you're a kid and they come over, and then from then on it was like their second house. That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
He just knew he was always welcome.
But nobody actually takes us up on it. They're just like, great, I'm going to back away slowly and disconnect from the computer now.
Yeah, that condescending and somewhat frightened look in their face going, yeah, okay, I'll call you. As they wait till they're out of sight to start running.
Well,
Yeah.
the one guy I work with, he's a professional clown. He used to work for Ringling Brothers. He's like, I'm going to contact Travis. I'm going to. I've just been busy. This has been going on for 2 years.
Ed, do you remember, like 2 years ago when we had a clown show set up?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, he's still saying he's going to call me to set up the
Whenever
show.
I see him at work, he's like, yeah, I'm going to get in touch with him. It's been 2 years.
Now, the guys we have on next week, I think you guys all know, but Dan, one guy is an ex-NBA basketball player who's
For the
in
Cavaliers.
his 60s.
50.
The other one is a 20-year-old white kid who wrote a book. So they're polar opposites, but they have the same name. So I'm like, let's bring them on the show together.
Yeah.
It might be a total flop. It might be after the first hour going, thanks for joining us, guys. Time to disconnect
After
you.
20 minutes. Technical difficulties.
Five minutes later, crickets.
There is
That's
nothing
nightmare.
What's the chances if we're acting like our normal selves? It's like a 20-year-old white kid long before we do the former NBA player.
That should be like a pool. Like, who can we offend the fastest? That would be a worthwhile pool. We're like, how fast will they get pissed? And have like, we got 5 minutes. Someone's got $20 on 5 minutes for the white kid.
That'd be great. I wonder if we could have a running pool with our regulars and these people that have never watched a show and come on never know we're doing it.
Yeah, and you just have a little side pool going. It's like, well, none of you are going to know what this is, but we'd like to announce a winner. Fabian just won $20 because you're like, what? I'm telling you, you're an asshole, and you're thanking me. No, Fabian thanks you because he won the $20.
That's right. You've got a pool going.
That would be good.
I suppose it'd come down to which one of them's most offended by the word gook.
That's the word that made our guest leave last time.
Yeah.
And see, then what do you say, geek?
Gook.
Oh, gook.
And to put it in context, the episode we were doing was our version of Whose Line Is It Anyway? So we were doing improvisational comedy, but unlike those guys, there's no warm-up time, no prep. Someone just throws something at you and you've got to go with it. And
Kevin
they made
was playing Trump,
Kevin was Trump.
and I was Kim Il-jung, and we were carrying on a conversation, and Kevin used the word gook.
Because it was the ABC game, so they had to go each
so
letter.
each sentence starts with an A, then a B, then a C. And we got to G. And one of our guests actually said they were highly offended, and about 30 seconds later just disconnected and just dropped out of the show mid-show without any warning, which is really shit. A lot of the games were set up for like a certain number of people, and she was supposed to be on for the whole show, and she just went, fuck you, and quit the show.
And some of our viewers left. And by the way, none of them were Asian.
Right.
They were white people that got offended.
See, that's what I was going to say about the pool, though. It's like the white kid will probably get offended, but he might be offended at something that he thought was directed at his name counterpart.
He might be,
Because he is by definition a snowflake generation kid. So who will melt first? The snowflake contest. We could just have we'll call it the snowflake pool. Who will melt first at the first sign of a breath of heat?
I told you you'd be okay on the show, guys.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh, I gotta pee.
Yeah.
In other words, who would not survive Thanksgiving at my house?
Okay.
So are you gonna grow the facial hair back?
Some.
Some?
Yeah, I kept it. It's been so cold. Of course, I shaved it off, and then it got like 20 below zero right away.
So it's
So,
your
like,
fault.
Yeah. So it's all on me. If I would have had a big, uncomfortable, itchy beard going, then it would still be like, you guys would be in the 50s, and I'd be in the 20s and 30s. So.
All right. I tell you what.
Well, I got to take the kids to the doctor early in the morning, so I'm going to bed.
Looking at your pictures as I